Good afternoon! Yeah, baby! It's a Football Friday. Danny and Dusty with you. Thanks for riding with us. Woo! It's like hot outside. It's all hazy.
Is there fires?
Yeah, it's fires. I've been watching news, man.
I was saying because
Watching news. It's fires and ozone is what the weatherman called
it. We got that nasty yellow stuff back again in the sky.
We got some fires going on.
Looks like we peed in the sky.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good way to describe it.
It's a
well hydrated though.
Yeah,
like
this isn't this. Tom Herman's not mad right now.
Yeah, you're not championship levels.
This guy's not a bad teammate.
You're a good teammate right now. You're a good teammate right now. Way to go, Earth.
You've been hydrating properly.
We got that rain right before this heat kicked up, so we know hydration has been key. Yeah, it is. It's that's a very good way to put it. We got a good teammate level of yellow in the sky. Happy Football Friday, everybody. And this is like the first true Football Friday. College football started last week. This week, you've got the NFL started yesterday. Full slate of college, full slate of NFL. Friday night lights are going to be popping off across the state of Oregon here, where we get to start officially everybody underway in high school football. This is where America comes together. This is where America is at its best. Football season. We got all levels of football going on. It's nice and warm outside. This is why people say, I love the red, white, and blue. I love it. I love it.
America.
I feel it in my loins right now.
Down in my plums.
That's right. Ashley Schaefer, B&W. Woo! Woo! Still, I think probably one of the best shows of all time.
I still need to finish it out.
I don't know if you need to finish it out, but those first two seasons, bangers.
Yes. Dynamite.
Eastbound and Down is a phenomenal show.
Yes.
It really is. And that's why it just goes back to baseball does television and film better than any other sport. It's the damnedest thing. Baseball and golf are the two sports that people think are the most boring to watch. But when you talk about shows and movies, those two sports kill it. Kill it. Football does not translate to cinema.
No. It's hard to not have it look choreographed.
Yeah. And, I mean, when you get your quarterback out there and he looks like Uncle Rico throwing the ball, it's just ugly.
Bet you I can throw this ball over the mountains.
Mildly problematic.
Yeah. I mean, Playmakers, the TV show in the early 2000s on ESPN, that was great. But then the NFL's like, wait, guys, you can't do this.
You're one of our partners.
You guys are literally telling, like, true stories from the locker room, and we can't have this being the image of our league right now. Basketball, they don't even try with basketball really. Hoosiers?
There was Winning Time.
Well, they're
that recent Lakers one.
They're going to try now with what's the
Clipped?
No.
That was terrible.
Yeah, oh God, it was. They did the Al Bundy cast is Sterling was great.
That was good.
They've got the receiver show. They followed Braun, Domantas Sabonis, 3 other guys around last year, and they're gonna run that series.
Okay.
I guess at least what was it? Was it
called?
Blue Chips that actually had the real Hoopers?
Blue Chips with Shaquille O'Neal.
Well, there was somebody else in there too, wasn't it?
When they talked about his SAT score, and they're like, "You get 300 points for spelling your name correctly." Yeah, he didn't.
Yeah. How is your SAT score still the same as your shoe size?
Blue Chips was great. The Air Up There with Kevin Bacon.
Oh, God.
What?
That was a movie.
Yeah. So it was Tatum, Butler.
I mean, that's Gonzaga's basketball program was built with that, just like in Eastern Europe.
You're not wrong.
They just went to Eastern Europe and were like,
let's find a few Polish kids.
we're going to send our version of Kevin Bacon over there. And guess what? It worked.
It's worked out for him a couple times. But the NBA one is LeBron, Tatum, Butler, Ant Edwards, and Domantas Sabonis. It's like their quarterbacks show.
You were going to hate watch Jason Tatum on that show.
Oh, God, I know.
To no end.
It's not great.
Yeah. All right.
I'm trying to think of somebody who could be more boring than Jason Tatum in that show. Like Kirk Cousins, it was like, it's like Kirk Cousins has more character than Jason Tatum.
No, Kirk Cousins was great on that show because you were just like, this guy is so weird.
Yeah. I think
When
people are
he
gonna do
did
the same
his
thing with Tatum.
acapella thing, oh my gosh, he looked like something just straight out of the movie Pitch Perfect.
Mm. That's
He even did
fantastic.
like the hand signal for it.
You know the what's the actor that's in Pitch Perfect? My algorithm is very strange. There was a thing about him how he went into casting for that, not knowing it was a musical. And
Oh,
so
really?
he had nothing prepared, and he just hammed it up. And
I
ended up
thought this was
getting-
going to be a baseball movie.
Yeah, I didn't know about this.
I think that was kind of the thing. He did kind of think it was something like that.
Huh?
God, what is his name?
Pitch Perfect is funny.
Adam Devine.
Adam Devine.
Adam
is a
Devine.
comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a singer.
No.
No, he's a really funny comedian. Workaholics.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, he's super funny though. I like me some Adam Devine.
Do you know when that movie came out?
Righteous Gemstones, too.
Righteous Gemstones. Yeah, great show.
What are we, like 15 years ago for Pitch Perfect?
2012, 13 years, or 12 years ago.
Yeah.
That wasn't far off.
No, September 28th, so almost 13 years on the dot.
Wow.
I
How
would,
about that?
I would not have thought that was that old.
Pitch Perfect 2 had like Clay Matthews and Brian Bulaga.
Oh, that's right. They
in
had
it.
the Packers.
The Packers were like an underground
trio. Yeah.
underground a cappella
I
group.
believe it's pronounced Brian Bulaga.
Unbelievable.
Is that guy still around doing that bit? That's a great bit he
Great bit.
does. He just mispronounces names. Brian Bulaga.
Like with Jason McIntyre and Randy Arezanoza.
Johnny Moran.
It's pretty good.
We had Colin today going with Jackson Smith Enigma.
Just can't figure him out.
I don't know. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, but he didn't do it on purpose.
It's okay. Jackson Smith and Jigba is, I mean, you have like,
It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
no, I mean, it sounds like every little leaguer across Major League Baseball or across Little League across the country, Jackson Smith. And then it's like hyphenated in Jigba
Yeah.
at the end. Like that throws you for a loop there.
Except the name is spelled like Jackxsen.
In Little League or?
Yeah, Little League.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
there's some wild. People are like, I like the name Jackson. I want to be different though. It's
Yeah.
like, good luck finding a license plate at Disneyland with that and spelling.
Like one of my kids is named Sadie. We can't even find one of those anywhere.
Yeah, it's tough out. It's hard in the streets these days for the kids and the license plates. You know,
Yeah,
I always hated it because you never found a Dusty. It was always a Dustin.
yeah.
I was like, I'd always get it
yeah.
and I'd be like, thanks. The big one.
Womp, womp,
The big one,
womp,
the big one for me
womp.
though, growing up was like, when my parents would go to Vegas or Reno or Tahoe, and they just bring Harrah's stuff back.
Mm.
You know, like,
Yeah.
it was just like,
There
all
you
right,
go.
yeah,
Yeah, close enough.
just
Keep-
like,
keep it to the family.
yeah,
There
yeah, just like a deck of cards that's
Mm.
been used. Is like, this is actually, I like this better than the name that nobody calls me
Mm.
unless I'm in trouble
Yeah.
by my mom.
Dustin.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's tough.
no, but you don't
No,
want that.
It's like it's when I hear Daniel. It's either I'm getting arrested or it's my parents.
Yeah, well, mostly getting arrested.
Yeah, that
then.
part.
Yeah, yeah, mostly that.
Yeah. I hear Daniel and it's just like, oh no. Because I actually have legal documents that have my name as Danny. I think I've explained this before.
How?
I wrote it down. So I'm not kidding. So I will
So you're the reason why I have to provide like 8 pieces of mail and all of everything at the DMV. They're like, we can't have this meringue thing happening all the time.
so my license,
Yeah.
Danny.
Mm.
My conceal and carry permit, Danny. My
Mhm.
military ID, Daniel. My other conceal and carry permit, Dan.
I feel like you should be on a no-fly list, okay, just because of that right there.
It's great because anytime however I fill out my,
I mean, everything else that you've told us on this show, you should also be on a no-fly list, but just because of that right there.
the great part about it is no matter how I fly or no matter how I put my name on my, what do you call it, the flight thing?
Ticket?
That's not ticket, but the there's another word for it, and I'm totally blanking.
Manifest.
Thank you. On the
okay.
flight, however it appears on the manifest.
It's like they're not going to let you put your name on the plane.
Well, no, yeah, no. Well, I mean, give it time. But however I type it in, whether it's Dan, Danny, Daniel, I have an ID for it.
Let's see, which one of these do I need to pull out?
Oh man. So that reminds me of one time I was like one of my first buddies to get married. I got hammered one night and was booking his flight for his bachelor party. And for whatever reason, I thought it'd be really funny it had like it's like a suffix on his name, and it was like Esquire sounds about right. And they almost didn't let him get on the plane because
It said Esquire.
it had Esquire on there, and I was like, they're like, well, do you have documentation that you are an Esquire? He's like, no. He's like, I'm not a lawyer. And they were like, well, it says here Esquire, and he was like. He texted me, he's like, damn it. And I was like, I didn't know this was going to be a problem. I just had a few, and I was booking your flight, and my bad.
Didn't want to put a doctor on there.
My bad.
Is there a doctor on the plane?
It's like-
It says right here there is.
I'm going to change your name to Ben
No.
Dover.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he made it through. That's when TSA was really cracking down, apparently.
I mean,
Yeah.
they can deny you entry if you put Dusty on your ticket
Yeah.
and you don't have an ID that says
Yeah.
Dusty. Like if it says Dustin, like they can tell you to go to hell.
Yeah, it's
You-
a problem.
It's very dumb. It's like, really?
You can't carry the one here.
Like you're not picking up what we're putting down here?
We're doing simple math.
Like, because I think most people probably use autocomplete
Mm.
when they're filling out those forms.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, here's the other thing. We're all 40-ish. If you're buying something that's more than $1,000, can you do it on your phone, or do you have to sit down at the computer?
Anything more than how much?
Like $1,000. So like airfare or a new TV or you know what I mean, like basically like a purchase that's gonna hurt.
Yeah, I'll do it on the phone still. Like, I mean,
Really?
like airfare on the phone. I'll do airfare.
See,
I
I-
booked flights on my phone.
I
Do
like
you?
to sit down at the
Oh.
computer because
I would
need to have
rather-
more room to compare and
Uh-huh.
contrast.
I
and-
would
yeah.
rather do that, but yeah, I'll use.
Yeah.
I have booked on my phone.
It's not like for security reasons. It's so I can,
Yeah,
better,
no, it's
better
like
research.
It's not even that. It's like a comfort thing. Like any time
Mm-hmm.
I'm making a big purchase. Like I bought
See,
the
that's
TV
why
this
you're
weekend.
like considered an old now.
I know.
is because it's like you are the version of I like to write checks.
Yeah, no, I when I
Balance that checkbook every month.
right,
It's
get
like,
out of the
you
way,
don't
Mildred.
Need to
Look,
do
This
that
is the express
anymore.
lane.
I'm looking at deals on Labor Day for my new TV, and I saw that Best Buy had deals, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go down there.
Yeah.
So instead of buying what I had to see it in person. I had to go down.
Well,
there.
yeah, I think buying a TV, seeing it in person is important.
No.
Like you got to see that picture quality because there is something about purchasing a television that you've got to get that right. You got to get that right. It's like a couch, man. Like if you seen people who are like, yeah, I bought this couch on the internet. It's like, how?
you do, like
How'd you do that?
Yeah, my wife and I went to
Why
like
would you do that?
seven different
IKEA.
You gotta-
seven different furniture stores,
Yeah,
and like
put your butt on that
we
thing.
traded positions in the
Whoa,
cushions.
big.
Hey, look,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
hey, look.
You got your pocket-sized copy of the Kama Sutra with you?
You don't think I need a copy of that? Come on now. Come on. But no, we went to like 7 different stores before we finally found the one that we liked. And then it was like, even then, they didn't have the exact formation of the couch that we wanted, so we had to order it. And then, like, when it came in, we went and checked it again.
Yeah.
Just because like it's
These-
it's a big purchase.
you
It's going to
spent
be
a
like
lot of time on there.
Yeah, and it was funny before this couch has even moved into our house. We already established which side is whose.
Yeah. We've got a problem in our house.
Oh,
See, that's very important. You got to get your butt prints right,
right.
on the
Yeah,
couch.
we've got like an L-shaped sectional with an additional
Yeah.
length.
It's got to
Yeah.
properly form to your rear.
Somehow, my turd son has figured out he has squatted on the best spot. And it's like
Oh.
you'll be sitting there and he's like, he'll just come and just bloop, get right in that corner. It's like,
You need to
And
Sheldon
he's like-
Cooper that little son of a
he's
gun.
like, you're in my spot. No. And he's like, I'm not moving. He's like, yes, you are.
Let me tell you, man. I carved out my spot last night in front of the new TV.
Yeah.
Holy crap!
There's something rewarding about that.
Holy
There's
crap.
a rewarding feeling about finding
Mm.
that sweet spot and just being like, I own this
Yeah.
now.
I had to change positions ever so slightly because we went from a 55 to a 65 inch in the living room.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, the angle's different, the lighting's different.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta finagle my way to the right spot here.
Now, did you go by there's like rules of how close and
Yes,
far
I
you need
did.
to be from the TV?
Yeah,
Are you good with that? Because that is actually
It's a real
very
thing.
noticeable.
No, it's a real thing. So what I did was I moved my 55 into my office, and I had a 48, I think, in there. That was an older Samsung,
Mm-hmm.
and I always was like, man, something about this doesn't look right, and just because it just wasn't big enough for the space because it was a longer space. My living room is a long space, but we sit in it like the short space, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So I want to say it's 12 feet from wall to wall. So you take about 4 feet off for
Yeah.
the couch and then about 2 feet off from the wall, and you're about, anywhere between 6 to 8 feet away. And they recommend 65 inches when you're that
Yeah.
far away. And I was like, because I guess the math of it is you're supposed to have the TV take up roughly 40% of your view.
But I don't know about if that's it.
That's
Sure.
that's the recommendation.
Yeah.
Because I was like looking at different size TVs and I saw one. I was like, ooh, I really want that. And then I was like, I'm like maybe 6-7 feet away. I don't think 70 plus.
No.
82 it
Too close.
is.
Yeah.
82 it
Oh,
is.
don't be wrong. They had one of those because I ended up getting the 8K enabled one, but they had one that had like something like 1 million pixels.
There is
And I
no
went,
such
"Whoa."
thing as a television that is too big, but being too close to it, there
Yes.
is such thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. I want to get to the point where I have so much money that I have those LED panels that just kind of stick together.
Yeah.
That's the dream. Because
It's pretty awesome.
Because those things you just make it however big you want, and you can assign whatever value you want to a given portion of your screen.
That's great. All right. Well, I'm happy for you and your new TV. You watched last night the kickoff to the NFL season.
I did.
The-
The new style kickoff on the new TV was quite enthralling.
The Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. We have that on the docket today. It is Football Friday. We will preview Oregon and Boise State. Oregon State takes a trip down to Snapdragon Stadium to take on the Aztecs of San Diego State, which they struggled out of the gate. And we'll discuss that a little bit. Huge weekend in college football and previewing the weekend to come. Week 1 in the National Football League. But where we got to start this bad boy off, the ref showed us start, and the Kansas City Chiefs do the same old thing again. Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
Which one of these do I need to pull out?
dark is falling. You know the spirit of the party starts to come alive until the day is dawning. Can throw out all
Lamar Jackson now 1-5 all time against the Kansas City Chiefs, starting off the NFL season last night. The reigning Super Bowl champs hold off the Baltimore Ravens 27-20 to kick off week 1 of the NFL's regular season. Taylor Swift in the building. How about that? Who'd have thunk it?
You know,
How do they keep that under wraps?
Yeah, wow.
well, to be honest, I was shocked. I was sitting there watching the game with my wife,
We're not watching football anymore if they're putting her on the screen.
and I was like, you know what? It's actually kind of crazy. This is the first I've heard of her all season. There was no lead up talking about it.
Ooh.
Like, they made an active choice to not talk about it.
Did you know that there was actually big lead up? I don't know. We didn't talk about this yesterday. I had this tucked away in my notes. Did you see the breakup plan?
No.
TMZ had to squash a report that Travis Kelce had a breakup plan. His PR team did.
Oh.
Yeah, there was a breakup plan with he and T Swift and how they were going to handle it. And his PR team's like, what are you talking about? That was the big story yesterday. Taylor Swift.
Did you get this one from your niece?
No. TMZ.
Oh, okay.
TMZ.
I
had
thought you
it.
might have like clued you in on it.
No, the breakup plan, and they were like, no. No, the Swifties are like, who would have a breakup plan with Taylor Swift? That's just stupid.
Yeah.
Nobody would ever do that. They've bought into the true love now. You know?
I mean, I think if you are dating the most famous person on the planet, you do have a backup plan for how that breakup goes. Because otherwise,
a PR team definitely does.
yes,
On
because,
how they handle that messaging.
because otherwise you're done.
Yeah. Yep. I love that they still are like, it's amazing how Travis Kelce was nothing before he started dating Taylor Swift, and all of a sudden he became one of the best players in the NFL, and the Chiefs won a Super Bowl that year. That's crazy. It's like, wait a minute. He was the
Wait a minute.
best tight end in football prior to dating Taylor Swift, and he's already won a couple of Super Bowls before they started dating,
Yeah.
guys.
Just some random
Here we are.
guy.
Google's not that hard.
Well, last night we had 3 shows put on the field. Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes putting on a show, respectively. And then the ref show to start that game. Good golly, Miss Molly.
All the illegal formations.
Yeah, Johnny Cornelius is sitting there like, see, guys?
Yeah.
He got 2 of them in that Oregon game, but that was it's a point of emphasis by the NFL to nip it in the bud before it gets egregious, as it was last year. But I thought last night, especially the second one, where the tackle was even with the guard. Actually, he was in front of the right or left guard. He was in front of him.
Yeah,
And they called it illegal formation because they were claiming his helmet didn't break the waist of the center, which, if you're going to call it close, how about you do it with the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah.
Because that's why there's a point of emphasis this year.
Juwan Taylor is the guy who last year basically went viral because not only was he basically lining up in the backfield, he was starting his kick a full beat before the ball was snapped.
Yep.
Regularly. And it wasn't even one of those things where you had to slow it down. You were like, good God, man.
Yeah.
Like, and for the Chiefs, like, this isn't even sour grapes. Does it change the game? Yes, no, maybe not. I don't care. But this is like putting an emphasis on a rule in the NBA for flopping and then not saying a word to James Harden or Dylan Brooks. It's like, no. That guy, him in particular, screw that guy.
Yeah.
That's who you made the rule because of that dude.
Yep.
Call it on him. Because there was at least 3 different instances where it was like, where he just, let alone lined up in the backfield, and then he get the early kickstart. It was like, come on, man. Either make it a point of emphasis and throw the bleeping flag on the Chiefs, or shut up about it.
There were a lot of penalties in that game. I think both of them. I think the Ravens had 7 penalties for 64 yards. The Chiefs had 6 for 45. A ton of penalties in that game.
Ugly.
It felt like they were far more punitive against the Ravens, though, in kind of situationally and when the penalties were thrown.
Yeah.
That roughing the passer against Patrick Mahomes was absolutely ridiculous.
That was all the Chiefs fans like, he gets hit more. And it's like, no, that was an egregious call.
That was insane.
Yeah.
And
That's protecting the shield. That's all that was.
but that is one where you go, when you talk about the punitive penalties that cost the Ravens, that was a situation where you're looking at 3rd down and 20 and it's now 1st and 10. Like, that changes a game right there. And that was the ref show. Both teams had flags that were egregious, we know. It just seemed like at the end of the day, the Ravens were on the worst end of it. But that's not what dictated that game.
No.
Because I looked at that in Lamar Jackson put on a show with his legs, and he was running wild like we didn't see in that AFC Championship game.
Mhm.
We saw the throws that he didn't make, though, are the ones that really stuck out to me.
The one in the end zone.
We are We are talking about the end of that game and football being the ultimate game of inches, and Isaiah Likely in the back of the end zone making it an incredible effort, an incredible grab, and then thinking that, oh my gosh, Baltimore, they at the buzzer, they have a chance to win this game because John Harbaugh was going for 2.
Mhm.
He was going for 2 on that.
And he had me puckering up last night, too, because I took the Chiefs -3.
If he is not like a size 11D shoe,
Yeah.
we're sitting there and we're looking at this game completely different. But it was the 2 passes prior
Mhm.
for Lamar Jackson that really stuck out
The
to
drifted
me.
fall to the middle of the field.
The missing Zay Flowers, as anytime you see hand up, right? And Zay Flowers gave him the fist as he's running across the end zone, like, hey, I'm here. Lamar Jackson, for whatever reason, thought he was going to sit down instead of running to more green grass there, right? You give a fist up on the outside. If a receiver does that, it's, hey, I'm converting, I'm going on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the fist up means I'm going to keep running through. It is show numbers, sit down. And Zay Flowers didn't show numbers. He put his hand up, and that's why he kept running. And if Lamar Jackson, as he's rolling to his right, just keeps throwing to his right,
Where there's 6
that's
yards
a
of space.
touchdown.
Yeah.
That's a touchdown. Instead, he throws it wildly behind. And that play cost the Baltimore Ravens. The previous play, where Likely in the back corner of the end zone, he ends up like landing on his shoulder. I thought he was hurt.
Yeah.
Like, that was a tough fall. That's a throw Lamar Jackson needs to be able to make. He had his tight end was open in the back corner of the end zone. That is a throw you rep 1,000 times every offseason. And he overthrew it, overshot his target, and Isaiah Likely unable to bring that one in. Lamar Jackson had a good game.
A great game. I mean, you run for $122, throw for 273, and you don't turn the ball over.
But those 2 throws
Mhm.
set up the throw that was a difficult throw to Likely in the back of the end zone where his toes just on line. He KD'd himself against the Milwaukee Bucks.
It really was. And look, we can talk about Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. Isaiah Likely was a bleeping monster.
He was.
What's funny is Lamar's worst throw of the night might have been the Likely touchdown. He underthrew him so much because of the pressure.
There were
Likely
a couple of underthrows, yeah.
and he had to come back so far that it created a ton of space. And that separation allowed him to absolutely annihilate. I've never seen a guy that big break somebody off that ferociously that many times in that small of a space.
It was an interesting game in that we saw Mark Andrews and his anticipated return after a gruesome leg injury and was largely a non-factor in that game.
Meanwhile, Likely was cooking.
Derrick Henry was largely a non-factor
Were
in
you
that
surprised
game.
they didn't hand the ball more? Just to wear things down? Because it wasn't like he was
No.
unsuccessful. I think his rush success rate, I think it was something like 60%.
He only averaged 3.5 yards a carry and didn't pop any of them.
But I mean, isn't that what Derrick Henry does though? Is you get to 20 plus carries and then you get the one that breaks, the two that breaks.
Flow of the game, though. I mean, Kansas City's linebackers were. There's a reason why Lamar Jackson had 122 yards rushing, right? He was scrambling and tucking the ball and running, but also they made a conscious effort to take away Derrick Henry. And
Are you surprised they didn't spy Lamar more? Because he was gone so often.
No, I wasn't all that surprised because of the fact that you now have competent targets in Baltimore. right? Like you have to respect
Yeah.
Zay Flowers. You have to respect Isaiah Likely. We saw that Rashad Bateman can get loose on you, and the aggressive style that Steve Spagnuolo plays, man, I wasn't that surprised. That's kind of how they're gonna defend teams, and it was working.
It was.
For
I mean,
three quarters, you gave up 10
Yeah,
points.
I mean, Spags was bringing DB blitzes from the wide side of the field, which
as he does.
wait, I get that you do that, but doing that against Lamar Jackson is certainly something. You know, that's because that does present because that I believe that's what happened on the one he broke for 50 yards that came back, that stupid holding call. The call wasn't bad; it was a stupid holding. Like there was no reason to grab and pull him there. Lamar's gone, but if I remember right, that was on a wide side blitz, and then that whole side of the field had been vacated, and Lamar took off for 53.
A lot of times it is you're guessing.
Yeah.
I mean, you as a defensive coordinator, when you got an athlete as skilled as Lamar Jackson playing quarterback, you're guessing and you're trying to take away where his strength is when he runs, where he likes to escape the pocket, and that's where you dial up your pressure to, and you say, all right, sometimes one of the best athletes in the world is going to be one of the best athletes in the world. I thought Lamar running 16 times, a little bit surprising, right?
Especially considering we talked about this the other day. He talked about getting lighter and losing weight a month ago and how he was going to avoid this. He did a pretty good job of not getting hit he took off, but he did take a few where you went, ugh.
He took a lot of hits early. Patrick Mahomes took a lot of hits in that game. Mahomes took a lot of hits in that game. And I thought the most, one of the softest ones was the one that was a roughing the passer call.
Yeah. Does Lamar look smaller to you? Because to me, he looked smaller to me. Like he just looked leaner, even more spindly than before.
Yeah, I never
because
thought he was spindly. He's bigger than what we think he is.
Oh, sure, but that's big. It's the comparison in the NFL. But
yeah,
he also looked even faster.
He is a fast dude.
He hit that gear, and he has that. It's not quite Mike Vick. I think it's more Randy Moss, where he eats up strides.
Yeah,
and he just kind of glides away from guys, and you're like, oh God, he's moving. Yeah. Remember, he's never run a 40.
Never?
Yeah, he said he's never been timed in a 40. Because I would be willing to bet at his fastest he's a 4.2 guy.
Yeah,
like he's that fast. When you see him in the open field, it's terrifying.
Lamar Jackson. We talk about the two plays that he didn't make prior to the touchdown that was not. Even though, do you hear Lamar Jackson after the game? This was his comment about the Isaiah Likely in the back of the end zone.
I thought it was a touchdown. Still think it's a touchdown.
No, it wasn't.
No.
Also 12 targets for Isaiah. Just what goes in that connection, and how did you kind of see him, aside from the last play, really pay off your faith in him?
Well, man, he was just open. And I've seen, I don't want to get it wrong, but it looked like 32 and 20 was turning to pursue him when he realized where the ball was going. So I threw it so he can make a play on it. Just so I don't throw it like a line job to hit him in the face mask and they turn around and pick the ball. So I gave him the ball so he can jump a little bit. But I thought he did a great job, acrobatic catch, and I believe it was 2 feet in. I'm going to stand on that.
There was not 2 feet in. His toe was squarely on the line.
Yeah.
And I thought Patrick Mahomes summed it up very nicely.
He's got to wear white cleats next time. That's my advice for him.
It's not wrong.
Can't see the line, can you, Russ?
It's tough.
Can't see the line. Can't see the line, can you, Russ?
Wouldn't be the Christmas season if the stores were any hotter than they are.
But all in all, great game last night.
It was a phenomenal
great
game.
way to start the season. I saw some few people online saying that this game's boring, and I'm just sitting there going, what game are you watching?
Yeah.
You're watching playmakers everywhere?
Yeah.
Guys getting broke off. There was a one cut from who's was it Justice Hill? No, it was Hill on the little dump out play to the flat where Lamar underthrew him, and he caught the ball hands underneath it, on the turf kind of deal, and he made a guy miss so bad I thought it was Madden.
Oh, Isaiah Likely on his touchdown run too, putting the brakes on, going. Whoop,
oh yeah, he hit the Lamar Jackson, just threw it on him. But there was playmakers abound, offensively and defensively. Roquan Smith was a dude.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens missed Patrick Queen.
They do. I thought they played well enough to win.
I do too.
They played well enough to win. But there were 2 plays that Patrick Mahomes made that you said, this is why he's the greatest quarterback. We'll get to that next. Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
This is a Football Friday edition of Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust here with your Sports Center update. First on the Fan, the number 7 Oregon Ducks look to improve upon last week's lackluster win over Idaho, hosting Boise State tomorrow. 19-point favorites are the Ducks. 7 o'clock kick on Peacock. Coverage right here on the Fan. It starts at 2 p.m. Oregon State hits the road visiting San Diego State. 7:30 kick on CBS Sports Network. The Beavs are 6-point favorites. There's more NFL on the docket this evening. Packers and Eagles from Corinthians Arena in Sao Paulo. 5:15 kick on Peacock. Philadelphia are 2-point favorites. ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting the Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey have agreed to a 3-year, $72.3 million extension, making him the highest-paid cornerback in NFL history for a second time. The Steelers and tight end Pat Freiermuth have agreed to a 4-year, $48.4 million extension. That takes him through the 2028 season. And on the diamond, the Mariners start a 3-game set at the Cardinals. Bryce Miller starting for Seattle, Eric Fetty for St. Louis, 5:15 first pitch on Root Sports. Mariners remain 4.5 games back of the Astros in the AL West with 21 left to play. The Astros start a 3-game set hosting the Diamondbacks. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Live, local, and free. No subscription required. Portland's sports leader is 1080 The Fan.
We talked about the plays that maybe Lamar Jackson didn't make that helped the outcome go the way of the Kansas City Chiefs. There are 2 plays that Patrick Mahomes made in that game that I look at and I say, this is why he is the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now. And they're not the ones they're not the big time throws. It's not getting his team in the right spot. The Isaiah Pacheco touchdown run, where Pacheco gets stood up at the line of scrimmage, Mahomes is 5 yards back in the backfield, and you see it click in his head that, oh, I need to go and give him a little bit of that bush push, right? He runs up, shoves Pacheco in the back, and Pacheco said after the game, like, I felt that. I felt that second push come at the end, and I didn't know it was Mahomes who did it, but I needed it. That play, and then when that ball got deflected at the line of scrimmage, when Mahomes caught that football, when 2 Ravens were bearing down on it.
That was insane.
That was a game saver right there.
But it isn't just because 2 Ravens were probably going to pick that ball off. I think most quarterbacks would just bat that ball down and just say, all right, we're going to play to live another down. Think of what that meant for Kansas City, that he caught the ball and the clock kept running.
Yeah, because
it got them to the 2-minute warning.
Yeah, they ran off like 40-something seconds, didn't it?
You were able to get the clock to the 2-minute warning right before, so that erases a whole heck of a lot of time. It would have given Baltimore another timeout in the 2-minute warning, and you got to run off that, I think it was 36 seconds before the 2-minute warning when it happened. Those 2 plays right there are the ones that you just sit there and you're like, what separates a guy like Patrick Mahomes? And I don't think that he was like, oh, I need to catch this ball to keep the clock running. But those types of plays, those are the separators, right?
Yeah,
that is the difference
those
between
are the little dumb things that seemingly go the way of the Chiefs.
Yeah.
In the same way they went the way of the Patriots all the time. It was just like, you certainly make your own luck. But there's sometimes just you got to horseshoe up your ass.
Yeah.
It's just that play, that's all. You're like, oh, that's just awareness by Patrick Mahomes. No, it's not. It's just pure dumb luck. Yeah. Somebody deflects their finger on that 1 pound of pressure more, it goes 8 inches more to the left. It's like, it's the simplest, dumbest things that you have no control over that can ultimately decide. Like, if the Bills-Chiefs game, there's 14 seconds on the game clock instead of 17, they don't win.
Yep.
It's like they did the math on that drive, and they said it was like something like less than 1%.
Pretty good.
To flip this over,
was that the score flow thing where they're like, they had a less than 1% chance? It's like, well, they Lloyd Christmas the SOB out of that.
Because there's so much data with the next gen stat stuff, they can take down and distance, location, defender location, offensive player locations, all those kind of things. They did this for the Likely touchdown last night. And when he caught the ball, he had a less than 0.3% chance of scoring.
On the long run?
On the long run, where he caught the ball with where he was, with his speed profile, with where the defenders were, and how far away he was from the goal line. He had a 0.3% chance based on all of the data they have, which I believe goes back to like 2008 of all the tracking data. And if you're wondering, like, well, how can they compute that? Well, they can take all of Likely's history. They can take every other tight end's history. They can take other profiles of other players that are like that and they go, well, then when they caught the ball in this position with defenders this far away and this far from the goal line, this is how often somebody scored. And that play itself was less than 0.3%.
I think that's where you get the old school people going like, see, this is why the math doesn't matter, because players make plays. But the reality is that most of the time, they don't.
Yeah, the staggering majority of the time, 99.7% of the time, that catch, that play, he gets tackled as soon as he catches the ball.
There's a lot that can come out of that game that we saw week 1. And I think one of the questions that a lot of people had entering this season is you have some turnover in the secondary, obviously L'Jarius Sneed being out.
Mhm.
What does the offense look like, because they still won a Super Bowl last year without having an explosive playmaker that was reliable on the outside for Kansas City?
They got one now.
Are the Chiefs legitimate contenders for a three-peat? Next on The Fan. You're talking about Penn State's offensive coordinator saying their offense is just a blizzard. You just add different candy to it. Makes it special. Makes it good. Vanilla ice cream turns into something magical.
What do you add to candy that's very fast? Or to a blizzard? Is it hot tamales?
But dude, I'll tell you what. They
Cocaine.
That gives you the runs. Doesn't make you run.
Andy Reid, he found that Oreo cookie to put in there. It makes it perfect.
Crap. Can they stop finding these guys?
Well, Xavier Worthy, the Texas speedster, we all were wondering how he would fit into Andy Reid's offense. Turns out pretty good. Pretty good. And this is the beauty of what Penn State's offensive coordinator was talking about. The Kansas City Chiefs offense is exactly the same as it was before. But put a little sugar on it. Put a little candy in that vanilla ice cream, and whoa, Nelly, This is going to be exciting to watch. Remember that video that came out of Xavier Worthy when he got jammed at the line of scrimmage in a joint practice?
Thrown twice like
to
a
another
rag doll.
planet. Well, he proved that in a game situation, not a 7-on-7 situation, in a game situation where he is going to be in movement, he is going to be motioning, he's going to be off the line of scrimmage, so he's not going to be a guy who gets that true 1 yard of separation press. If you can't touch him, you cannot guard him.
And that's what they're going to do with him endlessly. He's never, ever, if he is getting the ball, he is never going to be lined up on the outside straight up. He's going to be in motion. It's going to be jet motion. It's going to be something out of the backfield. He topped out at almost 19 miles an hour on his run last night.
Yikes.
Like that. And it's the insane thing about this is, like, when you talk about speed in the NFL, if you see guys that are hitting like 20 miles an hour on a run that's like 10 yards, that's terrifying because it means they're getting up to that speed like that. And that's like, I think Tyreek Hill, I think he still has the fastest time ever tracked in the next gen stat stuff, like 23 miles an hour or something like that. But if you're getting up to that speed on a run where you're not breakaway in the open field type stuff, that just shows you just how truly scary he is when you allow him to have any bit of space.
And this is where that Blizzard analogy, we can take it and apply it, right? Last year, they had Rashee Rice. Look at how much more open Rashee Rice gets when you have Xavier Worthy to worry about. When a defense has that speed, when they have that threat, Rashee Rice, who, hand up, thought he was going to be suspended.
Yeah, it turns out the better the player, the more room you have to have legal leeway.
Didn't think he was there to have that legal leeway, but remember you had the VP of the NFL, Brian McCarthy, or he's VP of Communications, Brian McCarthy. He said that Rice will likely not be placed on the commissioner's exempt list unless there's a material change in his case. They said that just last week.
Which doesn't make any sense because the material that we have is this guy wrecked a car at like 120 miles an hour.
While racing another vehicle in Dallas.
And caused a 6-car pileup.
Yeah, and the video sure seemed to look like he was getting out of that driver's seat.
Yeah, so I don't know what the material change that is required here.
Yeah, I don't.
You have video. It's not even like you have multiple angles.
If you don't know what we're talking about, back in March, Rashee Rice was involved in a hit and run incident involving 6 cars
in the middle of a massive freeway
in Dallas. And then police determined that 2 drivers, one in a Corvette, one in a Lambo, were speeding in the far left lane before the drivers lost control, causing the Lamborghini to veer onto the shoulder and hit the center median wall, which caused a chain reaction collision that involved 4 other cars. So, hey, Chris Carter. Remember Chris Carter when he got dragged? Got to have fall guy. Apparently, they're sticking to their story. So there we go. He's not suspended, but he is wildly effective when you have a guy like Xavier Worthy. Again, people also making sweeping generalizations about not just Mark Andrews and his production. To the texter on the Vancouver Ford text line that asked if he wasted a high draft pick on Mark Andrews, you probably did. But and Isaiah Likely is going to get touches. I'm not going to overreact to the first game back for Mark Andrews or the first game where Travis Kelce looked limited. This is the thing about the Kansas City Chiefs. When do they go to Travis Kelce?
When they need to.
When the games matter the most. Yeah. And right now, we know that Kansas City approaches the season like any elite dynasty does.
You don't force feed your guys. You let them.
Don't do it. You don't need it now. You need it later in the season.
And the reason why Kelce got so much love last year is because they had nowhere else to go with the freaking ball.
No. And
now you do.
If you can keep him healthier, longer, limit the contacts that he has. Also, make no mistake, there's a reason why you give Noah Gray the extension yesterday that he got. It's because you have an aging tight end in Travis Kelce who eventually you are going to see a regression in his production in his level of play, but to maximize it for as long as you can, you limit the times that he's on the field and he's getting those contacts. So I'm not going to overreact to Kelsey or Andrews right now. I'd say if you are more concerned, you're more concerned about Mark Andrews coming off a major injury.
And it's not even, I think,
but you got
just
Isaiah
injury.
Likely.
And that's the thing. It's because Vancouver Ford text line, somebody asked if the Ravens were just featuring Likely more, or if they were running more 2 tight end personnel, and they were running a crap ton of 2 tight end personnel, which they should, because they have Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely.
Well, and here's the pivot that you're going to see across the NFL, and you're seeing it across college football too.
I form.
No, the I formation's never left NFL.
Yeah.
But as the spread has become more prevalent across the NFL and that trickle up of RPOs playing in space, defenses have adapted their personnel to be smaller, faster. And so what offense coordinators are going to do is say, fine, we're going to condense it back down again. 12 personnel, hell, 13 personnel. You're going to see it a whole hell of a lot more in college and in the NFL.
It's actually interesting you brought that up. Is the Chiefs last night ran a ton of 4-1-6 defensive personnel against the Ravens, and actually ended up winning a lot of those plays, where the Ravens spent more time in their nickel package, and while they stopped the run, they got eaten up on the pass, because the 2 linebackers that they had on the field in those situations got matched up against whether it was Pacheco or Worthy out of the backfield or whoever else. They were isolating that additional linebacker on the field again, thinking that it would be an okay matchup for them, and it ended up not being okay for them. Depend on what you believe, the data there supported that might have been the biggest difference in the game.
The other guy who is crazy good is Chris Jones. Seems to be a really good football player still.
Pointing at whose butt you're going to kick before the snap is a new level.
They still haven't blocked him.
Well, that's Myles Garrett did it last year.
Yeah.
Now Chris Jones is doing it. Remember Vontaze Burfict at Arizona State? Telling Matt Barkley that he was going to rip his head off.
And then he had one of the dirtiest hits you've ever seen.
Well, that is evergreen with Vontaze Burfict.
Yeah.
But then he did rip Matt Barkley's head off.
For the second time, because he actually did it to him in high school, too.
Yeah. Well, them's the breaks.
Yeah, tough.
He was a freak of nature.
Yes.
But it's safe to say the Kansas City Chiefs are still really good. I think that they will be tested in that secondary a little bit more. Steve Spagnuolo did not feel comfortable last night with his secondary. You could tell, like when the refs granted him a timeout, which they were not supposed to do.
Yeah.
Only players and the head coach are ones that are supposed to grant a timeout. And those that got all butthurt about it, the actual rule in the NFL is that if a timeout is given to an assistant coach, it's not supposed to. Those refs will be graded down for that. Mm-hmm. But if it is granted, it's no changes in anything that happened.
Now, I do believe I read that it said Andy Reid was somewhere else trying to signal for the timeout to a different official, and Spagnuolo was just telling that other official, hey, he's trying to call a timeout.
Andy Reid was nowhere in the picture.
Just saying, it was to a different official. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Read that, but just another perspective.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that, the refs were on the Chiefs' side. No. Could they have called, I don't know, the illegal formation on Kansas City too?
Multiple times.
Sure could have. But I didn't get the feeling that they were on the Chiefs' side in that game.
Look, I'm totally okay with the refs screwing over the Chiefs. In fact, I endorse it.
Yeah, we would be okay with it.
Yeah. Well, and there was a missed
I didn't get that.
Unnecessary roughness call on Mahomes rushing where the guy got him. He was already through the white stripe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it happens both ways.
It happens both ways. All right, Kansas City Chiefs looking for a three-peat. Look really damn good doing it. They are 1-0, 27-20, beat the Baltimore Ravens. All right, let's pivot to college football a little bit. A big one in Autzen Stadium. All eyes are on Oregon's offensive line. Next on The Fan. All right, hour number 2 on this Football Friday. Danny and Dusty with you. Thanks for being a part of our day as well on 1080 AM, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app. 1080 The Fan is on YouTube and Twitch, youtube.com/1080am The Fan and twitch.tv/1080am The Fan. All right, let's get to a little bit of college foosball. 7 o'clock tomorrow night, right here on The Fan, the Oregon Ducks. Slipping in the polls down to 6th in the AP, 7th in the coaches poll from their number 3 seat after a rocky start against the Idaho Vandals. Welcome in Boise State, a thorn in their side, 0-3 all time against the Broncos. Not good.
No, I'm really interested to see how this game goes. We had Bob Beeler on, play-by-play of the Broncos, on yesterday, and talking about just where this Boise State team is, with Maddox in at quarterback, Genty at running back, the totality of where this team is under the non-Peterson era and the transition they've been making. A lot of people have picked them to be the Group of 5 team that makes it to the playoff.
Yeah,
and this is where you make that statement. And every time these two teams have played, there has been a level of nastiness that has come out of this game. And I'm for the first time going into this game, Oregon has a no doubt, absolutely unequivocal, no doubt talent advantage. And they need to exert that.
Yeah, all eyes are going to be on the offensive line, though. And look, they had the talent advantage in spades against Idaho, and it was the self-inflicted wounds that continued to change the flow of that game. Anytime Oregon was getting that momentum and you felt the avalanche was going to start piling on to Idaho, the Ducks found a way to bullet right in foot. And whether it was, erasing 2 big plays off of the illegal formation penalties that we obviously saw referees taking note of that in the NFL's opener last night with the Baltimore Ravens. But it was a fumble as you're marching the ball down the field. Moving the ball wasn't the issue. It was finishing drives. And you can chalk that up to, the shaky play on the interior of the offensive line. You can chalk it up to the running backs and the inability to get through those ankle pick tackles that continued to get Jordan James and Noah Whittington at the line of scrimmage. Just that little balance that we've seen Oregon backs be so good at, just kind of running through that and finding those extra yards after somebody tries to trip you up. They were falling down. Or it could be, you have a new quarterback in a system where there is going to be, no matter who is stepping in, there is going to be a drop-off in the mastery of the offense, especially when you have a guy like Bo Nix and how his level of comfort that he had with Oregon's players and the system, even with Will Stein in his first year. They kept so much similar to what Kenny Dillingham did that it was easy for Bo Nix to speak that language. Dylan Gabriel, I didn't think was the issue. I don't think the receivers and getting separation were an issue by any means. It was up front, and all eyes are going to be on that offensive line. They need to be able to get a push. I think we're going to see some different faces, whether that is because Matt Bedford is healthy at the starting right guard position, the transfer from Indiana who dressed down but not playing last week, where Dan Lanning said he was optimistic that both he and Gary Bryant Jr., the wide receiver, were going to play. Gary Bryant Jr. is going to be an impact player on that offense. He is going to be really good for them. But again, receivers weren't the issue. They were getting open. It was, does Dylan Gabriel have enough time to make those throws? Is the game plan going to be expanded enough to where, that's another thing that I don't think we're talking about nearly enough, is the vanilla game plan Oregon had against Idaho. Just knowing that, hey, we're going to lean on them. The dam's going to break at some point, and the dam never broke. I mean, in the fourth quarter, they put up some points, and it changed a little bit, but the dam never broke in that second half like we've come accustomed to seeing. That middle 8, the 4 minutes right before half and the 4 minutes right after halftime, those are so important to Oregon. That's where they have thrived and really put their foot on the throat of opponents. Didn't happen. And it starts with getting a push with your offensive line and being able to protect for Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, as it pertains to Gabriel, when we had him on ahead of the season, one of the things I asked him was about like what it's kind of entailing the same thing with Bo Nix and highlighting the things that he brought from UCF to Oklahoma to Oregon, and making it simple for him and using a lot of those things. And against Idaho, if you were going to be critical of Gabriel, is that he didn't take off. He didn't tuck the ball and run. Mm-hmm. If you want to say he didn't push the ball in the field, like, yeah, he didn't, because he didn't have the time for any route to develop. But taking the ball, and there was a couple different times where he could have took off and run for a ton of yards.
Couple 3rd and 5s, 3rd and shorts that you sit there and you go, run.
Yeah, and I think if your pushback is that Lanning and those from the top are telling him, look, man, early in the season,
limit hits,
limit your contact. Like that's an important thing, because Dylan's not a big dude. This isn't Cam Newton out here. So if you're trying to limit that, because what has been the thing that has been the thing that undid Oregon really 2 years ago, it was Bo's ankle. It's just and you can't prevent that. You can't play scared. But if you're playing Idaho, probably shouldn't have to tuck it 5, 6, 7 times and take those hits and put yourself in that position. Yeah,
the level of panic in my mind is not
high.
It's not it's not as it's not a panic. It's like, boy, if it happens another week, then you get concerned.
Then the eyebrows go up. Yes.
Then you start going, what's going on? But the level of panic is not nearly what it has been in years past when you have a lackluster start and you come out the way that Oregon did, because the biggest difference between Oregon this year and where they've been in years past is they have a very good defense. And that defense was exceptionally good against Idaho even. They gave up 14 points in that game. One of them on a trick play on a sudden change where you go for it on 4th down, you turn the ball over on downs. Trick plays coming, it worked for Idaho. And the other one was set up by a screen pass where you don't think that is going to be just pounded into the brain of Oregon this week in playing keys, playing fundamentals. Yeah, it'll be there. But the defense being able to slow teams down and grind a game to a halt, that can afford your offense to catch up, because the weapons aren't the concern. The health of the offensive line is, because it's not just Bedford, it's Dave Iuli, two interior offensive linemen. That makes a big difference in how you approach your offensive line play. Whether, and a guy that came in highly touted and got run early last year and then hurt his shoulder, Nishad Struthers as well, an interior offensive lineman. Do we see more of him coming up this week? And how does that change what the rotation looks like? Because last week it was largely just Marcus Harper, Charlie Pickard, and then Poncho Laulu on going left guard, center, right guard. We may see a far different rotation where Poncho was supposed to be the guy who's going to be your center heading into this year, played really dang well in that Fiesta Bowl against Liberty. Again, it was against Liberty. But, how does this kind of look moving forward? I think you are going to see big changes in rotation, and then just the game plan itself being more tailored to your opponent and tailored to Boise State, as opposed to, hey, we're going to roll the ball out, we're going to do what we do, and we're going to just maul you. That's what they had in the Idaho approach.
When you look at this game, what needs to happen for this week to be a success?
I think winning comfortably is something that fans want to see.
Because the line right now is 19.5.
Yeah.
And over under 61.5. So basically you're looking at a game that should be like 42-21.
Yeah. But I don't look at winning comfortably as the final score. It is the flow of the game.
Stylistically.
Right. It is, are you able to run the football against them? Establishing the line of scrimmage. Does Dylan Gabriel have the time to take those shots deep? Because teams are going to take what Idaho did and say, all right, we're going to give that a whirl. We're going to cap the back end of the defense and make sure we don't get beat deep. We're going to rally to the football. Again, I said this earlier in the week. I don't think I've ever seen an FCS team tackle as well as Idaho did, because even when a tackle was missed, there was somebody else right there.
Replicating that level of tackling is not something you just do.
They were very good, and they timed up the snap count tremendously. And that was one of the things that was a bit of a head scratcher. You go for a hard count twice, you get them to jump off sides twice. Probably going to see a little bit more of that as teams continue to try to time up the snap. But I think controlling the line of scrimmage on the offensive side, and then it is, forcing Boise State to be uncomfortable. They on when they have the ball on offense. Oregon's defense, if you are a team built on defense, and Jeffrey Bassa is injuries not a concern, by all accounts, he will be playing. But you are going to have one of the best running backs in all of college football that you're going up against. I mean, quite possibly the best running back in college football, in Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah, 5'9", 220-pound bowling ball.
He is going to get yards.
Yeah, whether it's out of the backfield catching the ball or running between the tackles.
They have road pavers on the offensive line too. It is winning that line of scrimmage, controlling Ashton Jeanty. That is what is going to be important. Like the final score, it's not like covering 19.5, which is what the line is at right now. It is how the flow of the game goes. Do they score in that middle eight, right? Which Dan Lanning, that's a staple in part of their identity, is that final 4 minutes of the first half, first 4 minutes of the second half, you get points in that middle eight. Because if you're getting points there, those are the ones that are backbreakers for teams. And that means you're not shooting yourself in the foot. Flow of the game, I thought more than anything else, including the offensive line play, I thought the self-inflicted wounds, which was partially the offensive line, but it's also missed assignments in pass protection by running backs. It's also a couple of drop balls. Their ball didn't hit the ground very often when Dylan Gabriel threw it.
It was 41 of 49?
41 of 49, but a couple of drops in there that you sit there and you go, those will keep drives alive for you. It is, perimeter blocking, and I think there was a run that was popped that got called back because you had a hold on the outside. You have those situations that affect the flow of the game. I think that's what I'm looking for. Success is not just winning, but controlling the line of scrimmage offensively and defensively, because you didn't do it offensively against Idaho. Eyebrow raise, looking very skeptical at that. You did against Idaho, but you have a different animal in Boise State, and then limiting those self-inflicted wounds that just killed drive after drive after drive. That's it. That's it for me.
Murder, death, kill.
Look, we talk about this like style points are going to matter now.
Yes.
It's a 12-team playoff. Win the damn game and get better as the season goes on. Full stop.
And it's less about style, and it's more about just doing what you need to do.
Yeah, last year Alabama, they play South Florida this week. They played South Florida last week and won 17-3. And people at halftime, people were like, "What's going on with Alabama?" Like they improved. They almost beat the national champion. You remember that was an overtime game in the Rose Bowl, right? Against Michigan.
Pretty good.
They were really dang good. Handed Georgia their only loss of the year. You can get better as the season goes on. There were a lot of alerts and red flags, but didn't see many,
You can
if
put
any.
all that behind you if you go out there and do what you need to do.
Yeah, didn't see many, if any, on the defensive side of the ball. You saw them on the interior of the offensive line and with the running backs. And look, I think the running back room is going to be just fine.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, we didn't see any of Jay Harris, the D2 transfer from Southwest Missouri State, who is a load in the backfield. Jordan James was inches from breaking. I mean, we had the one where Turf Monster trips him up. Then he cramps up as he's making a cutback with one guy to beat. And if he makes that cutback.
Has he tried not doing that?
Yeah. That might be useful. But if you get those things out of the way, then you're looking at that game kind of turns on its head. It's the little things like, again, that was a Murphy's Law game. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And it did go wrong for Oregon. Survived, though.
They should have just called the touchdown play every time.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, Steve Spurrier did say that about Florida.
Yeah, you just dial up that. Well, they're going to dial up a
New
DJ
head coach.
Lagway, the 5-star quarterback. They're starting a true freshman this week.
I looked at that class, this last class. It's like 6 of the top 10 true freshmen are starting now.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Ready to go.
Crazy.
Hey, Oregon State's playing a true freshman quarterback, too. They head down to San Diego to take on the Aztecs of San Diego State in Snapdragon Stadium. We'll take a look at that game next. Danny and Dusty on the Fan. Oregon State heads down to Snapdragon Stadium to take on San Diego State, the Aztecs, Mountain West. 7:30 kick between the Beavs and the Aztecs. Oregon State kind of shrugged off a sluggish start, as a lot of teams had to do early in week one, and finished off to Idaho State in pretty impressive fashion. They go down to San Diego State now, and they're playing a San Diego State team that is not going to be the class of Mountain West football. They are the sleeping giant that is in a coma and never wants to wake up.
It's so sad because they have such dope uniforms.
They do. Those helmets are
incredible.
Yeah. I've always liked their look.
Oh, God. And they tightened it up this season, too. It's just, oh.
Yeah. They didn't look good in week one, especially early. They played Texas A&M Commerce, which used to be a D2 school a few years ago. And Commerce was leading 6-3 at halftime of that game. Remember, Sean Lewis is the head coach at San Diego State now.
Oh, that's right.
He have fired by Deion Sanders midway through the season as the offensive coordinator at Colorado fame, because the offense was the issue last year, Deion. But he needed somebody to blame, so it was Sean Lewis. Sean Lewis goes and takes over that San Diego State team, and they're starting a true freshman at quarterback, Danny O'Neal, true freshman. If you're Trent Bray, this is the perfect situation. Dial up the heat.
Yeah, make sure he sees everything he's never seen before.
Because what San Diego State wants to do is run the football.
And be vanilla as hell and control possession.
They got Marquez Cooper as a running back. Sean Lewis, his offenses are really fun. They are really fun. But Marquez Cooper is their running back, and he went off for 223 in some tutties against Commerce last week. You know, he is the leading rusher in college football all time right now, the active leading rusher.
Oh.
It's not Ashton Genty. It's not Ollie Gordon. It's Marquez Cooper.
I definitely would have thought it was Ollie.
No. It's Marquez Cooper. He played for Lewis at Kent State and then transferred to Ball State when Lewis went to Colorado. And so he was at Ball State last year. He played 2 years, saw 2 years of time with Sean Lewis at Kent State, played last year at Ball State, and now is at San Diego State. Obviously, tailor-made for that style of back because, I don't know, Sean Lewis recruited him to play in his offense at Kent State.
Matter.
They really do. He is an animal, though, and dial up the heat on the freshman quarterback because you're going to need all that pressure to slow this guy down. And, again, San Diego State is not one of those teams that is going to be a contender in the Mountain West. That is going to go down to Boise State and UNLV. And UNLV, the sexy pick to sneak up and take that group of 5 spot in the college football playoff. Barry Odom is doing an incredible job at UNLV, even with losing their quarterback, Maivea, to USC, who was battling Miller Moss for the starting job up until the end.
That literally sounded like it came down to the end.
But UNLV, really good. San Diego State, not that team this year. But Lewis does an incredible job with the offense.
It's a travesty that teams that have such a good look struggle.
Well, with San Diego State, it's like your location could not be better.
No.
You got finally your own stadium, and you're not playing in Qualcomm. They built a new stadium for you, and you're in a fertile recruiting ground. You're in a conference that you can win games. I don't know if you took anybody to San Diego State's campus who would say, no, I don't want to go here.
Also, do you know what they have? That they can have their student athletes? What their major can be?
Huh.
You can major in surfing.
Sick.
San Diego State is the school you can major in surfing. They've changed
shred
it.
the gnar.
Oh,
they have changed it. I'm not kidding you, to the surf and skate studies.
Oh, so it's surfing and skating.
Yeah. This is like Ray Gunn having a PhD in breakdancing.
That's right. Go Aztecs.
I mean, everybody wants to put communications down on their what they play at school.
Yeah. Surfing would be a brand
Surfing
new one.
is a mwah.
I would be
I majored
so
in communications, sir.
But look, you know what I'm saying. When they list their in the bios on every website for the school.
Yes.
When you scroll through,
Yeah.
85% of them are communications. And then probably 5% are some form of sociology.
Mm-hmm.
Another 5% is journalism, and the final 5% is hard math and science. Like, those are your 5th year seniors, 6th year seniors that they aren't going pro in anything. But they have like a master's or are working towards a PhD in like mineral study. And you're like, oh, that left tackle's really smart.
Yep.
But other than that, like, bring back weird majors. I love seeing that when you look at the list and you go, oh, underwater basket weaving, huh?
We need to have more of that, but now it's just general studies.
Yeah.
You get a lot of general studies guys, which is a solid hack there. Because you don't want to
undeclared.
You don't want to pin yourself down to something.
Nah.
Just keep it general.
Yeah, San Diego State has the Center for Surf Research.
That's badass. That's really I'm in. But the Bees start 2-0. That's a great start to the year.
Hey, look, Bees need to win 10 games. They need to win 10 games.
What?
If they want to keep that little fire in their hearts alive of potentially being saved by another conference.
Well, they need to start 2-0 because it gets tougher when after this week you get Oregon, then you have Purdue, and then you have UNLV a couple weeks after that. Like
they need to win 10 games.
You got Cal, Washington State, Boise State. 10 is very optimistic.
I know that. It's going to be difficult for them. They need to.
What happens if they don't?
I think they start falling off the national picture very quickly. Of any little foothold that they have.
Yeah.
No, I know what you're saying.
Not to,
but
step on their neck or anything.
No, as I'm saying, if you want to have relevance, if you've got, let's say UNLV Boise State is a close game this year. Boise State wins, and you can go out there and let's say you handle UNLV.
Mm-hmm.
And you get that kind of transitive property bump that everybody gets when you get those games, because they don't really, outside of Oregon, they don't have anything that's going to give them something to stick their claws into. You know what I mean?
UNLV will be. I think UNLV is going to be a top 20 team at some point.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think that if they can go out there, if they can win 10 games, they can stay just relevant enough. Go, okay, because they can't have a fall off year. They cannot have a fall off year and maintain anything. So that's why I'm saying you've got to win 10.
I think if they went 8-4, people would be like, they did a pretty damn good job with everything that left.
Oh, I'm not arguing that.
8-4, I think they would not be crushed, and I think people would say that is really damn impressive for the hand that they were dealt heading into the season and all of the defections. Your head coach leaves, you don't have a conference to play in. I think 8-4, it would be wildly successful. And I don't think like 10-2. I'm not sure you're peeling off any more recruits because of 10-2. I don't think it makes you any more attractive to a conference if you go 10-2.
You don't think so?
No.
I think that there's a stark difference between 8-4, 10-2, considering everything that's happened to them.
That's not what is going to get them into a conference. It really isn't. I mean, look what every conference commissioner is saying right now. Like your brand, and that brand, we've seen 10-win seasons before.
That's true.
And what does that didn't do anything for it.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Because 10-2 doesn't get you to the playoff.
No.
Yeah, I mean it's just a very, very, very good season.
Gets you a good bowl game.
Yeah, it'll get you a good bowl game.
Get you a post-Christmas bowl game.
Yeah, and I think that would probably be more impressive to, like, if you win that bowl game, then you're talking. But that's the difficult position that they're in right now. Is that it is an image, fan base, money situation now. That's what people want. Brett Yormark told the entire country that's all they're looking for in the Big 12. And so why I think like a 10-2 season would be awesome by any measure, I don't think it helps you get into any conference, because if the ACC takes you, it's because they lost teams and they need them. And they desperately need them. Yeah. And the Big 12, that won't change your footing with them, because the expectation would be any team in the Big 12 goes 10-2 at that schedule, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Transitive property, I guess, on that side of it.
Yeah.
Okay, you taught me out of it.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
I would love for what you just said to be 10-2 get you into a conference.
Yeah. And I don't think it gets them into conference. I think it just keeps them relevant enough. Because I don't think they can really make, barring a run to the college football playoff, I don't think they can make up enough ground to gain footing. But I think if they win less than 9, I think they can legitimately lose footing.
Yeah.
Like they're not in a win-win situation. They are in a no-win situation where it's continue holding on for dear life by being even better than people expected, or fall off by doing what's expected.
See, yeah, and I look at that as if you're 4 losses on this year's schedule,
Oregon, UNLV,
Oregon, UNLV,
Purdue,
if they're 2 the big schools, on your schedule, like Oregon, UNLV, Purdue, Boise State. Nobody's gonna knock them for that.
No,
because those are teams that are supposed to be better than them this year. You know,
like but they'll find a way to knock them though.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I mean. I don't think they can gain footing, but I think they can lose it, which sucks. I don't like that at all.
I think that footing was lost about August of last year.
Yeah, that's fair.
That sucks.
All right, moving on to our worst day on the web. I when I look for these, I'm always like, that's an interesting.
I'll throw
headline.
Washington State into that mix too.
Yeah,
if they lose to Washington State, it's like, okay,
yeah,
you guys are in the same boat.
When I look for these stories or where somebody sends them to me, I look at the headline and go, and then kind of go. It gets into a pile, and then I make a kind of selection from a group. This one stood alone because electrocuted birds are bursting into flames and starting wildfires.
Because birds aren't real.
Birds aren't real. But first, it's the Big Kahuna Sports Update.
Hamburgers, the cornerstone of any nutritious breakfast.
This is a Football Friday edition of Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Stanford's. This classic American steakhouse has exactly what you've been craving. Visit them in Clackamas, Tanasbourne, or online at stanfords.com. First on the Fan, the number 7 Oregon Ducks look to improve upon last week's lackluster win over Idaho, hosting Boise State tomorrow. Oregon State 19-point favorites. It's a 7 o'clock kick on Peacock. Coverage here on the Fan starts at 2 o'clock. Oregon State, meanwhile, hitting the road, visiting San Diego State. 7:30 kick on CBS Sports Network. The Beavs are 6-point favorites. More NFL foosball coming up this evening. Packers and Eagles from Corinthians Arena in Sao Paulo, Brazil. 5:15 kick on Peacock. Philadelphia are 2-point favorites. The Steelers and tight end Pat Freiermuth have agreed to a 4-year, $48.4 million extension, taking him through the 2028 season. ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting the Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey have agreed to a 3-year, $72.3 million extension, making him the highest-paid cornerback in NFL history for a second time. And the Mariners start a 3-game set at the Cards. Bryce Miller on the bump for Seattle. Eric Fetty for Danny's darn St. Louis Cardinals. 5:15 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners remain 4.5 games back of the Astros in the AL West with 21 left to play. The Astros, meanwhile, start a 3-game set hosting the Diamondbacks. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The original home of the Herd with Colin Cowherd. Weekdays 9 to noon, 1080 The Fan. It's time for today's worst day on the web. With Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
Oh, really? That sucks.
One of the things I love about Worst on the Web is searching out these stories and then finding things like rodenticide, new words and new
That's
studies. This one, avian-caused ignitions.
Excuse me?
Avian-caused ignitions.
Okay.
This is a real phenomenon that has become more than a little bit of a problem. Birds catching on fire on power lines and causing wildfires is a real thing.
I thought birds didn't get electrocuted on power lines because they're not grounded.
Well, turns out they absolutely can.
Do they hit like the live wire part where it connects to the pole there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And there's I think where the transformer connects. What squirrels have started doing is like making nests in these boxes. My internet went out a couple weeks ago, and it was because a squirrel there's a black box. If you look up at the top of the like internet cable telephone poles in the neighborhood, there's a newer box on the internet line that's like right below or above the power lines, and this squirrel had filled it with nuts.
Yeah.
Like it's a box the size of like a portable speaker.
Just squirrels out there trying to get a nut.
Right. And because of that, the birds were trying to get to it, and they were trying to find like new ways to get into it. And this is a thing that's also happening is these birds, electrocuted flaming bird carcasses are falling off power lines and causing wildfires across the U.S. That is the word-for-word summary here. Okay, and they have now done a study that was conducted in 2022 that found that 44 wildfires in the contiguous United States were caused over a 4-year period from 2014 to 2018.
Goodness gracious.
That's 10 plus wildfires a year caused by a sparrow catching fire.
That is so many.
Think of how insane that is.
They want to yell at me for throwing a firework into a ravine.
I mean, right?
Wait a minute.
No, don't do that either. One of the guys that conducted the study was done by Taylor Barnes. He's a biologist who works for a power company. And he said sometimes they just burst into flames. Sometimes they just fall dead, but not everybody's electrocuted will fall to the ground and start a fire. Have you seen the social media video of the bird that does this? Like it's on the power line with a bunch of other birds, and it's like a big open transformer. It looks like a third world nation.
Okay.
And it's been turned into like 1,000, like as is wont to do in social media. Anytime something funny comes up, everyone does the same 30,000 things, but just puts their own name on it. And this bird, it's a large bird, size of a chicken, perhaps.
Yeah.
And it hits the transformer and immediately like bursts into flame and it's on camera. It falls to the ground. And then there's a transition and somebody like drops a whole rotisserie onto their plate. And they're like, see? And it's like, I've seen every single person do it. And it's like, okay. I get it, guys.
We need to get
stop copying
a hold of the swagger jacking on social media.
Look, somebody else does it. It's done.
Like because this is what TikTokers do, right? They take a video
That's
that
right.
goes viral and then they just have like a split screen of them watching it. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're not adding anything here. You're just watching
That's
it.
TikTok aggregation.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
It's ridiculous.
It's absolutely terrible. But the first time I saw it, I laughed. So there's that cap that I was telling you about on top of the transformer. So sometimes what can happen is insects get inside that cap and then it attracts the birds. The bird goes to eat the insects, particular woodpeckers and crows.
Oh, all right.
Which that's probably why we have endangered species on the woodpecker list. They're not very bright.
They do ram their head into things.
I have seen one hit a 220 line that was running along. So my parents have a shop on their property, and there's a 220 line that runs into the property, and it comes like there's a pipe that runs down like parallel to it on like a pole.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 220, 221, whatever it takes.
Yeah, you know.
Whatever.
And it was sitting there.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
220 volts.
Sure.
It's what powers your appliances.
Of course.
The big like crazy looking plugs.
Mm-hmm.
I got blasted by 220.
Yeah, you've told the story
Yeah.
of your eyebrow
Yeah,
ring.
yeah, jumped off my eyebrow. Mildly problematic. Don't lose bets,
What I
folks.
want to know is how do you keep track of all these stories?
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, 220 hurts a lot. But I watched a woodpecker. I'm like, because it made this brrring, brrring. It sounded like somebody like ringing an old timey telephone pole,
Mhm.
but it was this dumbass bird pecking on metal. And
Everyone find out. He's
in-
trying to find out what's in there.
well, he did, and then he got blasted, and it was like stupid. We were all sitting out there just watching this happen. Like, you think he's gonna get? Because it was just aluminum.
Yeah.
So he eventually got through it and got absolutely blasted. And we went and scooped his carcass up and threw it in the dumpster.
Last couple weeks, I've just learned that birds are not very smart.
Super dumb.
We're not
Getting eaten by mice.
Yeah. Wow.
Just very, very, very dumb.
I want to know. So, how many wildfires in the United States have there been?
44 over the course of a 4-year period. According to
11
the
per
22
year.
study, the area of California coast in the state's Mediterranean ecoregion has the highest density of wildfires set off by avian ignitions.
Should probably figure this out.
Avian ignitions is funny. It's like, is this like the remix to it to ignition? Is that what this is?
Avian ignitions, birds catching on fire,
Exploding.
and then catching our homes on fire as a result because of the wildfires.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Avian Ignitions is the name of my punk band.
Yeah, I mean it's a great. I mean it is a great band name.
It is a phenomenal. band
Honestly,
name.
this seems like how like Pontiac should rebrand the Firebird.
Is avian ignition? It's got an avian ignition system. It goes 0 to 60 in 3.2, bro.
You're going to find some dummy that thinks avian ignition means he's got to rip a bird's foot off and stick it in the keyhole.
That is very true because there is a large swath of people that do not realize a third pound of meat is more than a quarter pounder. People really love the quarter pounder because they think it's bigger than
Because 4 is bigger than 3.
third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, A&W.
Yikes. Yeah. So I would actually,
Also-
you're giving them far too much credit because they have no idea what those people don't know what avian means.
Also, on top of that,
They don't know. They're like,
Valid point.
it sounds awesome, dude.
remember your burger size is pre-cooked.
Yes, it is.
I always hated that.
Well,
When you cook a burger down, whether it's quarter pound, third pound, half pound, whatever,
Well, you
it
want 'em to
cooks down substantially.
Well, yeah, but you want him to throw that sucker on a scale after it's done cooking?
yeah. Then what do?
Put it on the bun and give it to me.
Just keep
no.
putting raw meat onto the cooked one. They're like,
We got to get
"Gonna
this back
wing
up
it
to a
here."
third pound.
No,
I mean-
look, if you know what your meat quality is, if it's 80-20, you know how much fat is going to burn off. So you know that in order to make a quarter pounder, you would need X percent more meat.
what you are just saying right now is you're trying to make America fatter, and
no.
I don't think we need that. Problem
I'm just saying,
right
stop
now.
advertising a quarter pounder as a quarter pounder.
Well, it's a quarter pound of meat when they throw it on the grill. I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
But you're not eating a quarter pounder.
You sure
Right,
are.
but
No.
when I go pick up that pound of
You're
ground
eating a
beef at the
6-pounder.
store, you cut it into 4. That's 4 quarter pounders.
That's right.
Terrible.
Yeah, and then you cook it, and a little bit
A lot
kind
of
of
it.
drains out.
A lot of it.
Yeah. Well, if you're getting the fat meat.
Well, I mean, look, the 80-20 is good.
Look, I'm just happy to know
Fat means flavor.
birds are real because of this
Yeah.
story. I mean, that's
you
what
can
we're
no
really
longer
learning.
pretend that birds are fake.
Well, or as this Vancouver Ford text line says, power lines are just recharging stations for the government birds. Maybe that's it.
The robotic birds.
This is
They're
what they
all
want you to
robots,
think.
and they're just short circuiting and catching
Yeah.
fire.
They just have a problem when they plug in, a spark happens, and they're just saying, no, that's
They're
a
all
bird
just
catching on
Teslas?
fire. Yeah,
Those are all
that's
charging
what's-
stations.
This is a cover up. I can't wait for the cover ups. The counter to this story that you're talking about is that the government cover up is that no, these are the birds recharging, and they have faulty plug-in system, and that's what's really causing this.
Yeah.
All
And,
right?
and that's how we prevent wildfires.
Yeah.
Smokey the Bear is actually a government agent.
Yeah.
He's the one that's only you can prevent wildfires.
That's
you
right.
and robot birds.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord. All right, let's pivot to the NFL for a few minutes.
Can't slip
There's
this
been
by
a
me.
ton of deals that have been done. In the 2 o'clock hour, we'll talk about maybe a deal that still isn't done. Come up here on Danny and Dusty, Danny the Fan. Well, the NFL season is underway, yet the business world of the NFL is still firing along. Money is being handed out hand over fist, apparently, to everyone, including Jalen Ramsey, who's now the highest paid corner in the NFL yet again.
Take that, Patrick Surtain.
I'm surprised. I'm not that he got paid. I'm surprised that he was allowed to be the one that set the market, considering where the Miami Dolphins are at. It feels like that's an organization that they're good, but it doesn't feel like they're in the position to be offering top of market deals across the board when they still have plenty of other questions.
I think they have that awareness that they're never going to have to pay Tua top dollar. And they kind of know that because the awareness that Tua has about his injury history and his production on the field. Like, we don't talk about this enough with Tua, is that he is really open about who he is, where he is in the NFL's hierarchy. Like, when he talked about the Brian Flores thing that made a bunch of headlines, it was because he was talking about his redemption arc in the NFL from being a guy that people were saying should be benched and all of his limitations, and how the relationship with Mike McDaniel is what got him to the point where he is not just a starting level quarterback, he's an above average quarterback in the NFL right now. But he has that awareness about him that
of not requiring to be paid like the 14th best quarterback. He's okay just getting paid. There's
he's going to be paid an ungodly amount of money.
Yes,
but
there was somebody else who just who took the money and was just like, I'm good. And I'm trying to think of who it was, and it was such a huge deal. God, I am totally blanking on this. And it was such a thing. It was like, it was Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson's self-awareness of his father, Rick Brunson, who was on the Knicks staff, said he told
well, it's pretty hard to tell dad who's negotiating you to take a hike.
Well, I mean, no, his dad played for 9 years in the NBA on 9 straight non-guaranteed contracts. And so Jalen grew up in this era where his dad made money.
Blazer legend, Rick Brunson.
There you go. But he never had any sort of certainty.
Yeah.
And Jalen basically said, look, I'm going to piss off the players union, but I don't care because I just want to have the guaranteed money. And so he didn't string it out and maximize all the different potentials. And it allowed OG Anunoby to get paid, allowed them to go make the deal for Mikal Bridges. Like, they had all this understanding. And I think Tua's probably in that same vein. And it's interesting that they're both smaller guys who kind of have this innate understanding that while they are very good, they're not the absolute best.
Yeah.
And they've got teammates that love them. They've kind of taken over and reshaped organizations, not in a way like a Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes or a Giannis or a Luka, like the guy who's a legitimate MVP candidate, but a really good player.
I mean, he is going to, and this is like with Tua's contract, they have an out after 2026 in his deal, and they're probably going to rework his deal next year. Because he, right now, as it stands, he'll have a top 5 cap hit in the NFL next year because he did rework that extension. Because what do teams always do? They sign a guy to extension, kick the can down the road, and then after next year, he will, like, he enters right now as a top 5 cap hit, but Burrow will jump him. Lamar is going to jump him. Herbert is going to jump him. And I believe Jordan Love is going to jump him as well next year. So when deals start kicking in and they're going to have to renegotiate. But this is why Jalen Ramsey gets his money, is because right now Tua's cap number is $9.5 million. If you're going to pay him to keep him around, pay him right now, front load that thing. Because, I mean, Tua's not going to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Ever. And when they gave him his deal and knowing what the cap is going to do, he won't be. I would be shocked if after in that 2027 season
window,
if he's even a top 10 quarterback in the NFL with a $45 million cap hit. He'll have a $45 million cap hit that year, and I bet he's not even in touching. I bet you it's not even close to being in the top 10 of highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL, just because of where the money is going right now.
And how much it's escalating.
Yep.
We talked about Tua a ton here, but coming back to Ramsey, even with that of like Tua not getting that deal.
Yep.
Are you wanting to invest that kind of money into Ramsey?
Yeah, he's still one of the best corners in the NFL, but and that's one of the things. Like, if you have the money, go ahead and spend it in the ways that you can, because they have wiggle room this year to spend a little bit of that money. Next year, they have a little bit less, but you can front load this thing to make it so you're not up against the cap. Corners fall off very quickly, though.
That's where I'm at here.
That's the apprehension is, all right, how quickly does this go downhill for him?
Because it seems like around year 6, year 7, that's when it just, Revis had that run, and then the cliff that he fell off of was monumental. And it was like,
yeah.
oh,
he's 29 years old.
And then that's kind of what I was wondering. I'm like, look, 26, I get that.
Yep.
I get that. Once you're getting that deal at 29, that feels like Nnamdi.
He had to do it before he turned 30.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Remember the Nnamdi Asomugha deal?
Oh, yeah.
He went to the Eagles and just was cooked.
Yep.
Absolutely cooked. And I was like, woof, that's because Nnamdi was one of the probably 3 best quarters in the NFL. And
he was trying to work into the world of acting. Is he still doing that?
I think so.
Is he?
Yeah.
All right.
He's a handsome man.
He is a handsome man.
He gets you in.
He was on the show that was filmed here in Portland, Leverage. He was on Leverage. Nnamdi Asomugha
Was he?
Yeah. Well, like, he had a cameo in it.
Yeah, he's got that look. Oh, God, he's married to Kerry Washington.
Well, he doesn't need to work.
No.
Nope.
Good for him.
Yeah.
It's a good place to be.
Great for him.
Great for him.
I love me some Kerry Washington.
My goodness. Good for you, buddy. Another deal that was signed real quickly. The Steelers inked Pat Freiermuth to a 4-year little deal, which, again, the Steelers, when they spend money, they spend it wisely on offense. They just don't ever spend that much.
Yeah. I mean, that is the most Steelers deal of all time.
$11 million a year for a tight end who's very good. Again, that tight end market, it still baffles my mind how the Players Union hasn't just gone nuts.
Well, how the agents can't leverage their clients for more money.
That's what I mean. Like,
I don't know.
It's insane.
How in the world you look at
Kelsey,
all of the
Kittle.
tight ends across the league that are dominant and how valuable they are for every facet of your offense, and yet they still can't get over the hump of
$15 million.
I mean, I would pay if I had a tight end like a Pat Freiermuth. I would be willing to pay him like my best receiver.
Yeah, $20 million a year for one of the top 5 tight ends in the league. Yeah. Yeah.
Yet they're like, nope.
No, they like that $15 million thing. It's just like
it's crazy.
This, glass ceiling. It's just sitting there on the tight end position. It's super, super weird. All right, as we pivot, not pivot, go straight into the NFL. One game is in the books, but we have the rest of the weekend still to dive
Great
into.
slate.
What are you looking forward to most from week 1 in the NFL? Coming up here in hour number 3 on Danny Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Hour number 3 here on a Football Friday on Danny and Dusty, whether you're listening on 1080 AM, watching along on youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan, or twitch.tv/1080 AM The Fan. We appreciate you. We love you. And if you're watching along, you can see Dusty jamming along to the NFL tunes.
I love it so much.
You were so
many horns.
You were riding the horns pretty good. The NFL is back.
Hold on. I had a conversation with Rob out there.
Oh, yeah?
Isaac Rob here very early today.
He walked in here very early.
Yeah, yeah. And I had a quick conversation with him. And we went over this where it was like, we only see and talk to each other for like 30 seconds a day. And he goes, well, call me sometime. And I said, you won't pick up. I know you won't pick up. And he's like, well, you're right, I won't. But then you text me, it's important. And I'm like, Rob, if I'm just calling to talk to you, you won't deem that as important. He's like, well, it won't be. I go, so why would I call you?
This all seems very circular.
And he's like, well, this is the process. And I go, there should be no process. That's why we are talking right now. This is why I felt like I was in the movie Spaceballs, where it's like, right now is now.
It's amazing. I'm surrounded by a-holes.
And we had this it was, call me. Yeah, I know you. You don't pick the phone up unless it is something of importance. And he's like, well, you're right. And I was like, well, then we're never going to get this conversation. He's like, well, I don't know. And I was like, okay, all right. This is why we're having this face-to-face right now. We're just sitting here having a 2-minute conversation just to see how you're doing. He's like, yeah, and this is great. And I was like, this is why I will never call you. I see you for 30 seconds when you come in and I leave, and it's bye, have a good day, and that's it. It was one of those, oh my gosh, why are we doing this right now? But I like to call people and I will call somebody, just check in, see how they're doing.
True.
See how they're doing.
You've done that with me.
Yeah, just to see what's going on.
Yep.
You know, make sure everybody's doing good in your world. You know, I think it's an important thing to do, is just to talk to people every now and then. You know, check in, do a little check in, see what's going on.
Little due diligence.
Yeah.
A little more. Again, this is us being old.
So basically what Isaac's going to do when he sees you and your phone calling him.
You can kiss my ass.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Don't throw out the, well, call me sometime.
I'm not going to pick it up.
No. When we both know you're not picking that phone up. It's a non-starter. It's a non-starter here. Don't throw that suggestion out.
It's a weird spot to be.
Yeah.
Well, not a not weird spot to be.
Yeah.
In between game 1 of the NFL season and the rest of the week 1 slate, with the Green Bay Packers and Philadelphia Eagles, as Jeff Ross said in his illustrious update, taking on the perils of South America and Brazil. Did you see that the Packers are going to have a 2-hour drive?
Yeah. That is going to be a...
Holy crap.
This is an S show. In that...
Oh, no way!
But we went over this yesterday, or 2 days ago, 19.5 million
So there's been some
fans.
clarification. There's been a clarification from the NFL.
Yeah.
There are 38 million fans in Brazil.
They just don't identify.
But no. Like what they think is their actual target audience of like NFL fans is 8.3, which I find these numbers very suspect, because Brazil as a nation is 200 million people.
Yeah.
You're telling me that 15% plus of their population is NFL pilled?
No. They're saying 8 million of the 200 million are NFL pilled.
No,
but
they're saying roughly 40 million are NFL fans.
No, people that they would target.
$200 billion.
Yeah, that's right. That's how much money they want to make. But I think what they're saying is they have about 38 million people that they feel they can peel off there. You know, the fact that toy that I saw with the 19.5, were 19.5 million Brazilians identify as NFL fans. So,
okay.
I mean,
so basically they went around and asked a bunch of people, hey, do you like the NFL? And they go, sure.
Yeah,
You're a
which
fan.
which is like 10% of the population of Brazil. Let's just take it over. Let's get 200 million NFL fans there.
There we go.
Yeah. What's the population percentage in the United States that identifies as NFL fans?
I think it was upwards of 55.
55 million?
Yeah, hold on, I'll double check it.
So they think they can peel off a larger percent of the population of Brazil than
Oh
the
no,
United
it's way more
States
than
of
that now.
America?
Maybe that was what was left. They thought they could peel off. It's at 184 million.
There we go. Now we're
Okay.
talking. Now we're talking. That number seemed wildly low.
Yeah, I don't know why I had 55. I had 55 million in my head for some reason. Maybe that was NBA fans.
55 million Americans watch every minute of the pregame and every minute of to the postgame of the Super Bowl every year.
Oh, it was 55%.
Oh, of
that's what it
Americans.
was.
Yeah,
okay.
55% of Americans. That
That's
makes
what-
far
I was
more
like,
sense.
I knew I had 55 in my head for some reason.
All right.
I was diving into the fan stuff when I saw the changing of the numbers for Brazil, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
No.
And it's not because I don't think the NFL can grow, and I don't think that they can tap into it. It's just I've been down to that part of the world. They do not care about anything other than soccer and basketball.
Yeah.
None-
Not yet. Not until they see the Packers and the Eagles tonight.
I just have a hard time believing that there's 8 million diehard NFL fans in Brazil. I have a very, very, very hard time believing that.
Yeah.
Now, Mexico?
About to find out.
Mexico? Yeah. There's a lot of Cowboys and Raiders fans in Mexico, man.
Oh, yeah.
Those two teams are doing great
Yeah.
in Mexico.
Like the Brazilians that I know, my brother is married to a Brazilian woman. Football fits their mentality. The physicality, the aggressiveness, it fits. It works. I think that the NFL in Brazil, I think it would work. I mean, I don't think we should be playing a game in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where they have to drive. Packers have to drive 2 hours to get to the stadium. But
did somebody goof booking that hotel and find like the Four Seasons landscaping instead?
No, I think probably I probably think all of this was wholly by design, knowing that they were going to have a 2-hour bus ride. They were like, we know.
They hit him with the high school trip. It's like Beaverton driving to Bend my senior year.
Yeah, that's that. Yes,
Like that's what I mean. That's what this is. It's like that's a little weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that's a lot.
I bet their buses are nicer.
Well, probably, but even then, it's not because they're
Still a
that
bus,
far away. It's because of security and traffic concerns.
That's right.
Like they are further away, but it's like, what the like 2 hours, dog? That's crazy.
Maybe Sao Paulo, they just have really bad traffic there. I don't know. They're like, we're 2.6 miles from the stadium.
That's 2 hours.
2-hour drive. Can't hoof it.
I mean,
Can I get a rickshaw or something?
I mean, obviously that's the game that we have tonight.
Yeah.
On the NFL slate, is that the most interesting game to you?
No, there's this one, there's a ton of intrigue because, look, all the turnover that has gone on with the Philadelphia Eagles, that whether it is Kelsey and Cox both retiring this year, being stalwarts and anchors from leadership and production standpoints of that team, to the additions that they have made, whether it's Patrick Queen or Saquon Barkley on both sides of the football, Philly on paper has improved their roster dramatically. But we also have to look at Philly changed over both their coordinators again, right? Kellen Moore in to call the offense in Philadelphia. This is going to be an interesting mix between Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts, because stylistically, Kellen Moore previously has been wildly different. And are you going to go back to, we are going to establish the run, live off of the run with Saquon Barkley? And if you're doing that, then the Jason Kelsey departure, it takes on a completely different connotation.
And that also changes the dynamic between Jalen Hurts and Sirianni and whether or not they want to kill each other.
I think the plan in Philly right now is just keep those two as far away from each other as you possibly can. And
Pound rock, call it good.
Kellen Moore is the guy that is going to be the intermediary there.
There's a lot of games, but I should say 2 or 3 games that I'm the most interested in. The game itself, I don't care about, but it's Caleb Williams' debut.
Yeah.
I want to see how good he looks.
The Bears and the Titans appear to have a direction this year. And I love what Caleb Williams has been saying, though, is that, like, he is tempering the expectations himself because he knows.
He saw what happened at SC.
Well, but he also was not a perfect quarterback by any means. No. And he will have his struggles in the NFL. But knowing that and having that awareness that this isn't just going to be I come out and I dominate.
And we win 11 games.
And it's going to be a roller coaster because every rookie has that.
Yeah.
Like very rarely do we Ben Roethlisberger, right?
Yeah.
Brock Purdy.
Stroud.
CJ Stroud.
But it's a rarity, is what you're saying.
It's
you're right.
And especially with Chicago, which has been thirsting for not just the quarterback, but competent quarterback play.
Forever.
Then they're like, we're finally going to get it. I love he's just approaching it with like, look, this is going to be a process. They do have a winnable game against Tennessee. I'm with you. I'm really interested in watching Caleb Williams and the entire offense and their new additions.
That Tennessee team is maybe the perfect matchup for them to play. It gives them some level of competency. Going out there and they're drubbing the Panthers or the Patriots, I don't think that does them any good in the sense of other than like making yourself feel good. I think the Titans, they do give you a level of like professional competency, even though they're not very good. Does that make sense?
Yes,
it's a good template to go against.
On the same token, though, I also am interested to see Jaden Daniels at Washington because they go on the road. They go down to Tampa. You got a defensive-minded head coach and Todd Bowles that he's going to be going up against, and that is a good defense that he's going to face, and he's going to have to go on the road for his opener. He doesn't get the Caleb Williams friendly confines right out of the gate. Bo Nix in Denver, when they go to Seattle for the Seahawks, not only is it Mike McDonald's first game as a head coach, and really interested to see what the new identity of the Seahawks looks like in a regular season game, but you are going to have the struggles there too with Bo in Denver and just looking at rookie quarterbacks. But outside of that, I think Atlanta and Pittsburgh is a sneaky good game this week because
styles make fights.
You have Kirk Cousins. You have a new offense, and you know that they had weapons, right? How does it all look put together? Because one thing that we know about Pittsburgh is they may be an absolute mess offensively with, it looks like Russell Wilson also not practicing today because of the calf injury. He's questionable. They're saying it's very iffy if he's going to start. You're going to have probably Justin Fields playing quarterback. Don't really care about that. But from the Atlanta perspective, what do they look like offensively? What does Kirk Cousins look like coming off of his injury and moving forward with all of those weapons that we've heard so damn much about? How are they going to be used? And so Atlanta and Pittsburgh is an interesting game for me.
Colts Texans.
That's
the one where I'm like, that one has the most intrigue for me for both teams.
That's going to get wild, man, because Anthony Richardson's been kind of drugged through it after what was electric at times, but head scratching mostly with, oh my gosh, is he just going to kill himself out there last year? And he did.
Yes.
And then CJ Stroud, will there be any element of a sophomore slump? I think even if there is a sophomore slump for CJ Stroud this year, and maybe they aren't, they don't go to the playoffs and win a playoff game, he is going to be just fine over his career. He is a guy that will be able to figure it out. But Houston that's an exciting team this year, man. And Stephon Diggs apparently is saying all the right things right now. We'll see how long that lasts. But that offense
I'm gonna
can
say
be
a short time.
Bobby Slowick calling the plays, CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs. That has all the makings of being a high-flying, really damn fun offense. And then now we finally have Indianapolis healthy because it's week 1. Injuries have been the biggest bugaboo that they've had.
Give them time.
Give them time, but week 1 you get a great shot.
Colts have just rolled out Josh Downs Sunday versus the Texans.
See, there you go.
Literally over your shoulder.
Gonna happen. We knew it was gonna happen.
It just popped up on the TV over your shoulder.
You want my sicko game of the week?
Oh God, give it to me.
It's Vikings Giants.
Oh God.
Yeah. Do you know that there are only 7 teams in NFL history that have allowed 70 or more sacks, and the Giants were one of them last year? Think about that.
Colts, Texans, Giants.
No, not the Colts. Not the
Colts didn't really.
Most sacks allowed by a team, 104 by the 1986 Philadelphia Eagles.
Good God.
Oh, my God.
How many?
Was that even a 16-game season yet?
104. Yeah, it was.
Was it?
Yeah.
Good. Who was back there?
And then you had the 1997 Arizona Cardinals allowed 78 sacks in 97. And the 2002 Texans, 76 sacks. Obviously, we remember David Carr getting
murdered.
Killed. Last year, the Giants allowed 85 sacks.
Oh, God. The Eagles was Jaws.
Yeah.
That's
85 sacks. Here's the not so great stat that accompanies it. The Eagles in 86, the very next year, allowed 72 sacks. The 97 Cardinals, in 98, they allowed 50 sacks.
God, so they're just getting murdered back there.
It usually doesn't work out very well if you allow an ungodly amount of sacks.
It doesn't change.
That you fix it the very next year. So that is one of my sicko games of the week because you have Brian Daboll who's back to calling plays.
It's on his chest now.
And he knows it. Dude, and I love that out of him. If you are on the hot seat and you know you're going to get fired, then just take the reins back because that's the one thing he did incredibly well. When he was in Buffalo, he's an incredible play caller. When he was at Alabama, an incredible play caller. Now you have just say, screw it. I'm going to take this back. I'm going to see what we can do. And then on the other side, you have Sam Darnold, right? just praying. That's a sicko game of the week for me, though. I'm wildly intrigued about that game, though, and I think Minnesota wins it.
The last game for me here is the Sunday night game.
Rams Lions.
I think it's the best game on the slate.
Yep. And we'll break down Monday Night Football. Which is Jets
Niners
Niners.
Has the potential to be very good, but I just think Rams Lions is just a good matchup.
Rams Lions on Sunday Night Football is how the season should start because Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit. You've got Dan Campbell doing the Applebee's commercials now. Are they buying into their hype a little bit too much? Because look, the one thing about Dan Campbell and the Lions was they played the underdog card
they're
better than anybody.
Over the top now.
They are no longer an underdog. You're not sneaking up on anybody. You started to get all those young guys are starting to get paid and they're getting their money. What does the grit of the Lions look like coming out week 1? Because you mentioned this yesterday. They planted their flag last year week 1. They went to KC and they beat the Chiefs. And everybody's like, "Oh,
is
this
Lions
real,
team
or
is the Chiefs taking
here
a step
for real."
back? Yeah.
I think they're a Super Bowl team. The Lions are. And I want to see them operate. There's a ton of intrigue about the Rams too because no Aaron Donald. That's a big why aren't we talking about this when everybody's saying the Rams?
The most disruptive player maybe in defensive football history is gone.
Yeah. And we said it with last year, oh, no Cooper Kupp, and the Rams were okay because they found Puka Nacua. Well, you're missing Aaron Donald, and you're like, that isn't the same.
No.
It's a different side of the ball. Yeah. It's one of the most dominant players that we've ever seen play on the defensive side.
I'm looking at Detroit's schedule.
Yeah.
They may be an underdog, quote unquote, on the books because of being on a road game. Outside of the game at Green Bay and the game at San Francisco, I don't think they're going to be an underdog as like the perceived underdog in the matchup all season. Legitimately. Rams, Bucks, Cards, Seahawks, Cowboys, Vikings, Titans, and then at Green Bay Sunday, November 3rd. That point in time, they're going to be an underdog at Green Bay from the books, right?
Yeah.
Outside of that, you've got at Houston. They might be an underdog, but Jacksonville, Indy, Chicago, Green Bay, Buffalo, Chicago, San Francisco, Minnesota. Are they going to be an underdog anywhere outside of Green Bay or San Francisco, barring health?
No,
that's
probably
crazy.
Not.
The Detroit Lions are going to be favorites in 15 games.
I love that.
That's nuts. Coming up next, one other NFL news and note that we need to get to. Jamar Chase and the Bengals, they don't have any wide receivers. Danny and Dusty, Danny the Fan. Bengals versus Patriots might be one of those crap-tastic games in the NFL this weekend, but it has a ton of intrigue because the Patriots are coming in without any weapons because they don't believe in them. The Bengals are doing it because they're all either hurt or having contract disputes, as T. Higgins is now likely going to be out because he's not practicing on a Friday.
He's doubtful.
And he's got a hammy.
Yep.
And Jamar Chase has said playing is up to him, but he hasn't really gone full bore. And if he does play, you're getting, 25, 30 snaps out of him? Maybe?
Probably. That seems about right.
Which, look, some Jamar Chase is better than anything the Patriots can put on the field.
Whoa,
but
stop.
If you don't have Joe Mixon, you don't have your wide receiver 1, you don't have your wide receiver 2, what the hell do you have?
Yeah, well...
Zach Moss better have a hell of a game.
Patriots defense isn't bad either. I mean,
I'm not going to argue with that.
It's going to be...
I mean, there's no
pretty
Judon back
good.
there, but...
They have Mike Gesicki, Trent Irwin. Anybody? Does that do anything for anybody? Yeah, it's not going to be a great game.
Whew.
I really like my under pick from yesterday.
Oh, God, that under pick is... I bet you that thing's juiced to the gills.
I like the under pick now. Well, it's already gone down a half point from where I got it at 41 yesterday.
Is that it?
Yeah, it probably is going to go down even more once you do have them ruled officially out.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take that one real quick.
But that game, Jamar Chase, I think he does play a very limited role, I think he only plays because of the fact that
they're so desperate.
They don't have any, like if T. Higgins was healthy, I think it looks a lot different. But without T. Higgins, I think they're going to be like, hey, man, we kind of need you. And Jamar Chase he's not a guy that, he's actually good soldiering this thing. He had a hold in. He's saying, I'll play without a new contract. Like, that's something I will do. But the expectation is that they'll back up the Brinks truck and they pay him. And they pay him a lot. And one of the most, one thing that I think players in any professional sport, and we don't really understand this, is that contract is so important. Like, we all want to be like, hey, you still are have a deal, honor your contract. That's their livelihood, and that window is so short to earn money. I would not be surprised one bit if Jamar Chase was like, I'm not going to do it.
I mean, how often
at
too,
all?
How
like,
often
at all?
How often too are the teams not honoring the contract when they cut a guy?
Yeah, but all the time.
Yeah.
All the time, especially in the NFL where majority of your deals for guys are non-guaranteed.
They say, see that bye.
Yeah, in the NFL or in the NBA and the Major League Baseball, you cut a guy, still paying him all the money you gave
Bobby
him.
Bonilla still getting paid.
But in the NFL, there's so much non-guaranteed money, they just go, see ya, deuces. So I would be surprised if Jamar Chase just goes, no, I'm not going to do it. I think he does because of everything that he said. Like, he has been a good soldier about this thing.
He's been more of a good soldier than T. Higgins.
Yeah, and showing up, may not have been practicing, but was there, was training at the facility. They know where he's at from a ramp-up standpoint.
He was not Brandon Ayuk all summer.
But you don't want to put a Ferrari on the streets if you don't know how to drive it.
No.
And right now, I don't know if he's ready to go full speed.
And reminder, they play the Chiefs week 2.
Yeah, that's the important one for them.
So make sure you get right ahead of the game. So
40.5.
I just got a plus 1,100 odds on the under and a little single game parlay with Gesicki as an anytime touchdown guy.
Well, I don't know who's going to score touchdowns for them.
That's kind of why I went down that road.
Yeah, it's not bad.
All right, coming up next, we'll pivot to college football as the biggest game probably in college football this week, Texas and Michigan, and everything that's going to come out of that. But first, here's the Big Kahuna Sports Update.
I hear they got some tasty burgers.
This is a Football Friday edition of Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by PG Long Floor Covering, carpet, hardwood, or laminate, flooring, cleaning, or restoration. Call PG Long, your Northwest flooring experts. PGLongLLC.com. First on the Fan, the number 7 Oregon Ducks look to improve upon last week's letdown over Idaho. Hosting Boise State tomorrow. Oregon 19-point favorite, 7 o'clock kick on Peacock. Coverage here on the Fan starts at 2 o'clock. Oregon State hitting the road. They're at San Diego State, 7:30 on CBS Sports Network. The Beavs are 6-point favorites. More NFL football on the docket this evening. Packers and Eagles from Corinthians Arena in Sao Paulo. 5:15 kick on Peacock. Philadelphia are 2-point favorites. Steelers quarterback Russell Wilson officially listed as questionable Sunday against the Falcons due to his hamstring injury. Justin Fields took the first team reps today. The Steelers and tight end Pat Freiermuth have agreed to a 4-year, $48.4 million extension, taking him through the 2028 season. And ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting the Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey have agreed to a 3-year, $72.3 million extension, making him the highest-paid cornerback in NFL history for the second time in his career. Over in baseball, the Mariners start a 3-game set at the Cardinals. Bryce Miller on the hill for Seattle. Eric Fetty for St. Louis. 5:15 first pitch on Root Sports. Mariners remain 4.5 games back of the Astros in the AL West with 21 left to play. Those Astros start a 3-game set hosting the Diamondbacks. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? We won't send you a bill. Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Some afternoon delight. My motto's always been when it's right.
It's my mistake. It's 2:30-ish on a Friday afternoon, which means, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Jeff Russ, America's favorite and number one game show.
The true afternoon delight.
Give it to me, Jeff.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, you're probably not right. A bit of a letdown performance by the Ducks last week. Let's face it, winning only 24-14 after being favored by over 40 points and really dominating in every major statistical category. They fell from 3rd to 7th in the rankings as a result. Now the Boise State Broncos rolling to town. Oregon are 19-point favorites. Oregon covers another letdown.
I don't think it's a letdown, but I don't think they cover. Boise State, no matter what, as good as Oregon is, and I have been higher on Oregon this year than I've ever been on them. There's something that happens in this matchup that it just gets nasty, and they've got a nasty dude in that backfield that can make this a dangerous game.
Look, Oregon won't cover if Dylan Gabriel has 2.18 seconds to throw the football like he did last week against Idaho. That is a stat from Pro Football Focus. 2.18 seconds.
That's pretty quick.
That is very quick. He was pressured 13 times and sacked 3 times. Ain't going to happen. And they will not cover if that is the case. I think they do shore up some of their protection stuff, but 19 and a half, so like we're looking at 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, that's tough.
Oh.
Broncos running back Ashton Jeanty. I don't know if you saw, he had himself quite the day last week against Georgia Southern. 20 carries, 267, and 6 tutties as Boise State outlasted the Eagles 56-45. The slacker had 3 catches for only 4 yards with a long of 6. But I'll set the over-under for scores for Jeanty at 2.5. Over. Under.
Under. I think they're going to do everything they can to take him away. 2.5, that means he has 3 touchdowns. No, I'm going to go under.
I'll go under. I think the Ducks are going to win this game, but I don't think they're going to cover. But I think Jeanty gets 2, though. I do.
Yeah. Good.
Oregon State, meanwhile, they took care of business against Idaho State, mainly keeping the ball on the ground. 58 team carries for the Beavs, while Giovanni McCoy was 9 of 10
Did you
throwing.
say 58 team?
58 team.
Oh.
Team carries.
I thought you said 58 team.
58
I was like, that's a new number. I like that number.
Yeah, 11 gazillion. While Giovanni McCoy was 9 of 10 throwing, Jabari Johnson 2 of 4. They're at San Diego State tomorrow night. Over or under 40 team carries.
Over. Run the damn ball. That's what they're going to do.
Run the ball.
Run the ball.
There it is. Tomorrow's marquee matchup, number 3 Texas, number
Minerals,
10.
vitamins.
I love that. Vitamins. Tomorrow's big matchup, number 3 Texas, number 10 Michigan. We'll just keep this one simple. The Longhorns are 7.5-point favorites. Which side of the spread are you on, Texas or Michigan?
You caught on.
Hook 'em. I'm surprised the spread's not bigger, to be honest. I think Texas rolls.
Front 7 really damn good for the Michigan Wolverines. But
somebody has
they
to
are
score
at home, and I'm still taking Texas. Think about that. They have their front 7 is dynamite.
It's the second best.
They are
probably
in the
college football.
big house. They won't cover.
No.
Over to the NFL, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens continue to struggle against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, kind of just like everybody else, I guess. Lamar now 1-5 against Kansas City.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah. The Chiefs have the Ravens number.
Or
they'll get him someday.
Ryan Clark of ESPN called Lamar Jackson the Russell Westbrook of the NFL and likened Patrick Mahomes to Damian Lillard waving him off. And I do think there is a little bit to that. I think there's maybe some as much as I've been critical of Lamar, I think he's made the transition into truly great, much like Westbrook was. But I think there is some fat on his game still.
Yeah, because I look at that and I think that's a very apt comparison because of the bat-esque crazy response Lamar Jackson had to, I still think it was a touchdown at the end of the game.
Yeah.
That is very Russell Westbrook.
That's
of him to
Westbrookian.
say. He that I could see Russell Westbrook, like if he was on the Nets with KD, he would have been like, no, that was a 3 still.
Or
like, no, that wasn't.
Or when somebody tells him
wasn't.
that he's a poor shooter, I'm going to keep shooting anyways. It's
like that too.
Okay, maybe don't.
But to answer your question, I do believe that eventually the Baltimore Ravens beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right.
The year may be 2037, but eventually.
Well, I'm talking like with Lamar.
Oh, yeah. I still think eventually you'll get one.
Alrighty.
You'll get a win.
Al win. Packers and Eagles from Sao Paulo. Jalen Hurts, Pro Bowler the last 2 years, runner-up for the MVP in 2022. A lot of folks think Jordan Love will take another leap this year after throwing for over 4,100 yards and 32 scores last year in his first season as a starter. Who throws for more yards tonight? Hurts
or
Love?
Love.
Final answer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Big gulps, huh?
Yeah, that one, I think that one might be one of the easiest ones in this.
Love.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah. Just by stylistically what they're going to do offensively.
I just saw an
and
Eagles fan
what they
on my
want to
Twitter
do.
feed who had a tweet from January where it said, "Run the bleeping ball, you idiots." And then it was a quote tweet saying, "I hope it's this again tonight."
Yeah, there you go.
Look, I think even Eagles fans know, like, there's some stuff going on between, obviously, Sirianni and Hurts, but also, you went and got Saquon.
Yeah.
That's what he's there for.
Yeah. This is quite the battle. You know what this battle is for? It's for all the cheese.
I thought you were going to say who gets to wear green.
No, it's for all the cheese down in Brazil. We're playing for all the cheese down in Brazil.
Stinky.
Cheese steak, Philly. Cheese heads,
Limburger.
Green Bay.
Stinky.
For all the cheese. All of it.
All right, well, that's it. That's
Hey,
all
way
I
to
got.
go. Way to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Jeff Russ. Oh, we play around 2:30-ish every Friday, especially when I remember.
Ish.
Ish.
That's
Coming
okay. I
next-
forgot about it till Dusty showed up today, too.
Hey, no, I appreciate you. Coming up next, we will talk Texas, Michigan.
We will.
The biggest college football matchup of the weekend here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. The old Big Noon kick between Texas and Michigan in the Big House. Number 3 Texas taking on number 10 Michigan.
Big Noon.
It's the biggest game of the weekend. It's not particularly close. You have a new SEC power taking on a traditional Big Ten power. And I was really interested to see what Michigan looked like in week 1. And what you are in week 1 is not who you are in week 13. They're
Nope.
two different teams. But quarterback play is going to be a very serious issue for that Michigan team. And Donovan Edwards, who was looked at as potentially the second best running back or best running back, depending on how you sliced it, in the country, was held in check for Michigan in week 1. You had Warren winning the starting job as the quarterback after it was much ballyhooed that Orji was going to be the one leading that team. And defensively, they looked good, as Michigan is wont to do, but I don't know how they're going to score points this season. I just don't. I can't see it.
It's an orgy in the end zone.
That's the problem, is that it's not.
Look, they have offensive line issues too in week 1 because we were talking about Dylan Gabriel, 2.18 seconds to throw the football.
Ooh, that's getting rid of the ball quick.
Davis Warren only had 2.16 against Fresno State, and they are going up against Vernon Broughton in that Texas defensive line. They got
significantly
dudes
better
that can get to the quarterback. That could be a recipe for disaster. But you also go down the line of, this is why am not overreacting to Oregon in week 1. You could figure some stuff out, especially when you have important pieces on your offensive line that are being replaced. And remember, Michigan had the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line 2 years ago.
Yes.
They returned all of them. Washington won it last year, but they were the same unit. A lot of those pieces,
they're all gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
And so it takes time to build that chemistry and continuity. And Sharon Moore in the offense, you can find your rhythm, but you have to have your identity. And the identity of Michigan's offense is you have to be efficient when you do throw the ball. And Davis Warren wasn't that against Fresno State. I think he was like 15 of 25 on the day. You have
Him and
to
Orgy
be better.
both threw touchdowns. Orgy's was off the trick play.
But what you have to do is have time. And to do that, I think you're going to see Michigan go back to what they do best, which is feed their running backs, run the damn football, and open things up and make it easier for your quarterback.
Yeah, and the flip side of that is Texas has an offense that, again, they played nobody in week 1.
Can't play keep up.
But that offense, look, they sent Xavier Worthy to the NFL.
Yeah.
They replaced him with Isaiah Bond and Silas Bolden. They're going to be fine.
Yeah. But on the Vancouver Ford text line, as a Texas fan, this is the kind of game that we let slip through our fingers all the time. Yeah, that's true.
I think old Texas, yes. I don't. I think this is a new Texas. I think this is. We can stop saying.
Well, we've
Texas
seen
back.
Sark do that though too as a
You're
head
not
coach.
wrong. You're not wrong. And look, I've seen him do it in another program. So. I'm not immune to that, but I do genuinely believe that this is the most stacked Texas team we've probably seen in 15 years.
Yeah, I mean they've always been loaded with NFL talent.
But I mean, it's not just the NFL talent.
They're
it's
really good.
It's the NFL talent at the positions that matter, all being there at the same time. They've got a pass rush. They've got a secondary. Now, running back's a little dinged up because they've lost 2, but they have
not a good spot to be in.
No, but they have 2 NFL caliber wide receivers. They have a Heisman candidate quarterback.
They probably have 4 NFL caliber wide receivers on that team.
But I'm saying right now,
Like, seriously,
you're,
they do.
You're, but I'm saying your 1-2 right now are no doubt,
Yeah,
absolutely NFL caliber.
really
dudes.
damn good. They're
And
loaded.
They're absolutely loaded. They make sense. They've gotten over hurdles that they haven't been able to do in the past. I think, getting over on Alabama last year was a big part of that, making their identity. And I think Ewers has got something to prove after last season. He was phenomenal until he got hurt. And Malik Murphy stepped in and really covered for them. But he never really picked back up the national note of what he was. And he's an incredible quarterback.
His Heisman hype train will start this week.
Yes. And I think he has a chance to really juice it.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to that game. Big Noon is going to be a really damn fun one. I also think we have a great game in Colorado, Nebraska, too. Dylan Raiola in Nebraska taking on the Buffs. It's in Lincoln. It's going to be on the Peacock, the precursor to Oregon and Boise State.
Put it on the cock.
As well.
I'll tell you what, 2 words I never thought I'd say are go Huskers.
Go Big Red.
GBR, baby. But that game is going to be an awesome one to take a peek at and just kind of look at.
That's our only top 25 matchup this week, I believe.
What?
No, Tennessee, NC State.
Yeah. Texas and Michigan is the only top 25 game. Colorado, Nebraska, obviously not a top 25 game, but this is the game where if Nebraska beats Colorado, is this where the wheels fall off? I mean, because you very well could see it. Did Deion's crew get the wake up call that they're hoping that they did get in slipping past North Dakota State? Also, another game I'm looking forward to this week in college football. Baylor goes to Utah. 12:30 kick on Fox. Baylor at Utah, and Utah's got a sneaky difficult schedule in the next couple of weeks because they will play Baylor this week in Dave Aranda's crew. They're 1-0. They took care of their business in week 1. But after this week, Utah has got Utah State, and then they go to Oklahoma State, top 20 team, and they have Arizona right after that. There's always that
This is tests.
stub your toe in the month of